I'm so proud. My ambitions as a rider. My ambitions as a rider. So many battlefield scars. What's up, folks? Heavy's Radio Show, man. This is Moose, aka Big House, man. We up in here, man. We got an outstanding show today. I tell you what, I am freshly showered, and I only have on 2 shirts today. I think I paid for this one, but the other one I was a present. All right. I tell you what, man. We also got in the house, man, the star of the show. He's the one, the only LGZ M'Baku. What's happening?
And Wakanda forever. What's happening? My man with a cigar smoke in the building too.
Oh yeah, you doing all right today?
Oh, no doubt.
All right, cool. We also got the lady of the house, man. The one, the only Run.
E.M.C.
What's going on, man?
Happy Tuesday.
You doing all right?
So happy to see you guys.
All right. Hey, well, I'm glad you're here, man. You having a good week so far?
Yeah, I've been doing basic white girl things, which means I've been drinking White Claws in the pool, getting a sun.
All right. Hey, man, you know what?
I'm not ashamed of that.
We got the smooth sounds, man. Fresh in, man. We got the one, his audio's not up. There he is. He's fresh in, man. The one, the only D-Lo. D-Lo G. What's up,
What's
buddy?
good, family?
You all right?
I'm good, man. How y'all doing?
Hey,
You
man.
coming through crisp and clear tonight, boy.
You sound good, big boy.
Even better.
Them pipes.
Smooth sounds, man. Heavy's Radio Show. Hey, we have last week we talked about doing an interview, and then guess what? We're gonna do it this week, man. We got a member, actually the Minister of Culture. The Minister of Culture. I was making sure I said it right. The one, the only Kwame Shakur, man, of the new African Black Panther Party. What's happening?
Hell yeah.
How's it going, Moose?
Hey, man, I'm glad you're here. And I can't wait to hear the message you got for us, especially in this crazy times. And then we also got another visitor with us tonight, man. I tell you what, I knew this guy back in college, so he's a HBCU member as well. Also a proud Omega Sci-Fi member as well. And guys, you know what? I always say this because he's one of my good buddies, man. He's a lawyer. Okay, everybody. I like saying that. So that's Doctor. Yeah. This is the Doctor, but I'm gonna give him a nickname, Dr. Earl the Rabbit.
What's going on, good
Dr. Earl? What's up, baby?
Good, brother.
I just want to know the good lawyer smoking on over there. What kind of stick is that, yo?
This is a Trinidad Santiago Toro.
Right. I like that.
It's a Dominican. Nice.
All right.
Yeah, I got me a Cohiba Red Dot.
Good one. I've had that one. Yes, sir.
Cohiba Red Dot, yeah, you know.
I got me a Black and Mild and a Cigarillo.
I'm saving my lungs for COVID.
Oh my God! There ain't no damn COVID. That shit don't exist.
I'm saving my lungs for COVID. Hey, guys, that voice you hear, that's the one, the only Health Connection. He's up in the house tonight too. And be still tonight. Or quiet yourself, man. You be moving around the whole time.
I mean, I be cooking, man. I'm cooking, trying to be healthy.
Hey guys, the Heavy's Radio Show. You're in the house. Listen, so tonight we're gonna have brews and reviews like we normally do. We're also gonna have a segment called "Tell Me Why You Mad, Son." That's something that we normally do. And then we're also going to have Run That News, and then we're gonna do the interview with the new African Black Panther Party. We're gonna do that first, actually. And so, folks, in this climate, we're gonna get with that and get some information and kind of see what's going on. And by the way, I'm not afraid to say this, that we know the Health Connection is a member of Heavy Hitters. Has been a long time supporter and member of our group, and he's also a police officer. So I know it's kind of interesting that we have such a diverse crowd, but that's how we do it. I mean, that's the only way we're going to Only way we're gonna make change is to have a diverse crowd like we have. All right, so hey guys, welcome everybody to the show. All right, so Kwame Shakur, the way we're gonna do this, man, we're gonna jump right in. We're gonna kind of introduce you, kind of get some background, and then we're gonna go into the movement. We're gonna find out what the heck is going on with the movement. You know what? How folks can help, right? How folks can join and help the movement, and then what are the next steps going forward? So, folks, without further ado, man, this is Kwame Shakur. Like I told you, the Minister of Culture with the new African Black Panther Party. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself, Moose?
Oh man, I tell you what, I'm amazing right now. I'm amazing.
Absolutely.
Hey, so I'm glad you could join us. We got a vast character group here. So welcome. You might get questions from anybody, but we're all fans. Matter of fact, some of the folks here know you already. I don't know if you knew that, but some of the folks know you. So, all right, tell us a little bit about the new African Black Panther Party.
Okay, so we started in 2005. It actually started in prison with the leader, Shaka Zulu. He's our chairman, national chairman of the New African Black Panther Party, and our Minister of Defense is Kevin Rashid Johnson. So it was originally the New African Black Panther Party prison chapter, New African Black Panther Party hyphen prison chapter, because all of our leadership was in prison. It started off with Tom Big Warrior. He used to be with the Red Heart Native American Society, something like that. I misquote this sometimes.
Sure.
But it started off with like a newsletter that was trying to bring solidarity amongst prisoners, and it was trying to bring the prison population into the conversation. So the Black Brigade was originally how it started with this newsletter. Eventually, it was a splinter that happened where the guy that was leading the Black Brigade was going in one direction, and Shaka Zulu and Kevin Rashid Johnson was going in another direction. And so, therefore, in 2005, gave birth to the New African Black Panther Party and prison walls. Kevin Rashid Johnson was actually in Virginia prison, and Shaka Zulu was in the prison system in New Jersey. So they only knew each other by letters via Tom Big Warrior. Fast forwarded to last year, Shaka Zulu was the first one to get out. And so his mission was to start a outside political organization. So we dropped the prison chapter to the name, and Shaka Zulu built up the national headquarters out in Newark, New Jersey. One of the things that he told me, which is ironic, because I definitely did do that. I did 18 years in prison my own self. When I got out, I definitely did do this when I got out of prison. His first day out of prison, he went to a protest with state prison boots on. You know what I mean? That's how serious he was. Got out, built up a strong national headquarters out there in Newark, New Jersey. I ended up joining a year later when I came across a meeting Kevin Rashid Johnson, because he's locked up in prison up in Indianapolis, Indiana right now, at Pendleton Correctional Facility in that maximum security prison. He called in on a conference call for IDOC Watch, which is a prison abolitionist movement. And when I heard his name come up, I was like, Kevin Rashid Johnson about to call in right now? I know him, and me and him started talking. And after that first conversation, he had eyes on trying to recruit me. And so March the 20th of this year, I ended up accepting an offer from Shaka Zulu as being the deputy chairman of the New African Black Panther Party. And recently, June the 5th, I ended up being elevated to Minister of Culture. And that's where I'm at now.
All right. Outstanding, man. Outstanding. So what is the mission of the new African Black Panther Party?
So we have a two-pronged strategy. We believe, just like me, Kevin Rashid Johnson, and Shaka Zulu, for instance, we all did time in prison. We believe that we have to turn these prisons into schools of liberation. Just like how Malcolm X went to prison, George Jackson went to prison, and they built up their consciousness and started re-educate themselves. they develop themselves into leaders. We don't think leaders is born. We think leaders are made. You know what I'm saying? By circumstances, by their experiences, and by the education that they give themselves. So by me reading and studying up on history and stuff when I was in prison, it prepared me for this moment. And also organizing in prison. A lot of stuff I'm doing out here in the community nowadays, I was already doing in prison. You know, so I made a lot of mistakes in prison that I learned from, and so coming out here today, it might come off as being a natural born leader, but it's not. It's stuff that I learned from there, and learned how to do things better as far as organizing and mobilizing people. So that's one aspect of our strategy is to develop leadership, people coming out of prison that can actually jump right into the movement. We also have another prong, which is we want to dual power, which is bringing the people to political, cultural, and social life. What that means is, like with the original Black Panther Party, they had different programs in the community, like free breakfast, free busing, free healthcare, free clothing, and stuff like that. If you think about it, it's about empowering the community where they take control of their own destiny. And if this government, this capitalist imperialist government, has a budget of 15 trillion million, this economy, which is about $15 trillion dollars a year. If they can't meet the needs of our community, but lower class, poor people can support the needs of our community, then for us, it shows a big contradiction. Why do we need this system when we can do this ourselves? You know what I mean? So it raises people to political consciousness when they start to see that the new African Black Panther Party, just like the original Black Panther Party, can help meet the needs of the community. So this starts to bring them to a level of consciousness where they start to recognize that they can take control of their own destiny. You know what I'm saying? And in the process, we want to bring them to a level of understanding that this system is the root cause of their oppression. And the only way we're going to end that oppression is if we do away with this system and we come to power and we become the new state power that's going to be in the interest of the people.
Okay. All right. Jeezy, Ron, D-Lo, you guys got any questions?
My question would be, where is the target demographic that you aiming for? Is it more youth based? Is it more like adolescent teens or the 20-something? Like what group of I guess what demographic are you trying to influence the most? Like as far as like the next level.
The main, like the original Black Panther Party, Huey P. Newton said the lumpen proletariat is our main political base that we must rally. What that is the people that used to be in the streets. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They used to be a part of the problem. You know what I'm saying? And once they become aware that they were a part of the problem and pawns of the system and become aware of that and become conscious of that, then they can become a part of the solution. Fred Hampton was one of our greatest leaders. Like one of the things that he did that we like that I do all the time is like I reach out to the people in the streets, the drug dealers, the gangbangers, the ones out here pimping and stuff like that. Because if you reach that demographic and the ones that's in and out of prison, if you reach that demographic right there, not only can you mitigate or even reduce to a large extent the community violence in our community that causes a lot of disintegration and dysfunction, but you also bring about them are the more hardcore elements that understand the oppression of the system. Like I've been jumped on by the police, I've been shot up by the police. You know what I'm saying? So I have a different awareness. I did 18 years in prison. My first 3 months in prison, they killed the brother May 27, 1999, and got away with it. He was my first Mike Brown. You know what I'm saying? And that raised by those experiences that I experienced in prison, it helped me to understand that the people in our community is not the problem. It's the people that rule over us that is the main problem, that we must organize around and organize the people in order to bring them to political life where they can start to take control of their own destiny and fight back against the system. You know what I'm saying? And transform themselves in the process. When I was in prison and I was leading different things in prison, I recognized through resistance of all places through in prison, I found freedom. You dig what I'm saying? The most unfree place in the world. You dig what I'm saying? And that came through my resistance. You dig what I'm saying? Where I was struggling always and standing in solidarity with the prison population. So the stuff I do out here now, when they kill people out in the streets, like they did Dre Shine Reed, May the 6th. And, you know, I went out there and we shut down the streets. And I showed the people the power of the people. You know what I'm saying? It showed them that you can fight back and you can come together and build solidarity with people that formerly that you was beefing with. You know what I'm saying? Once you start to understand the people around you is not the problem, but they're actually your brothers and sisters, your community that you must stand in solidarity with, then you start to recognize that you have to come together and build unity with these same people that you used to be divided with, and actually y'all collectively can bring about change in some type of form.
Hey, brother, I'm sorry, I just want to step in. Kwame, man, I'm a big fan of everything you've been doing, man, in terms of the city. You know, you're on 62nd and Michigan Road, you're downtown. I mean, everywhere, man. I mean, where there's some injustice, you're in front of people's houses. I mean, everywhere there's injustice, man, you're really on the front lines taking the fight, you know, to the man, for lack of a better term. I got so much I really want to ask you tonight, but since you brought up Dre John Reed, I do want to start there, if I may. I'm just curious, now that his family's attorney has released a statement regarding what they've seen, what's your position on the lack of information from Ryan Mears, the prosecutor, from the police department? I know that it's gone to a special counselor at this point, but you know, from my perspective, the fact that they've released nothing, you know, is a huge concern to me and has been up to this point. But I'm just curious, from your position, what are your expectations, and where do you think things should be as far as the release of information at this point?
Okay, that's a good question. One thing I learned in this movement, because I went down and met Big Mike Brown, Junior's father, Cal Brown, which is his stepmother, Vita Washington Sterling Abu Sali, which is Alton Sterling's IT, and many of the other families throughout the nation. I learned a lot being a part of that movement. If one's watch, I would recommend everybody watch a movie about the Mike Brown story called Stranger Fruit. This is actually normal. They take years, sometimes many years, before a family member even finds out any type of anything whatsoever about their loved one's case. You dig what I'm saying? And it's very it's a double standard, because let me kill somebody, I'm gonna be right in front of the court, the judge, with production of documents and all type of evidence against me within months. But when it comes to the police killing one of us, this is one of their filibustering tactics in order to discourage family members, you know what I mean, from even sticking with it, because they start becoming frustrated and start resigning in some cases to hopelessness. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's part of the process. If they can stretch this out for a couple years, just like last year, I was up in Gary, Indiana, standing with Tonya Simmons and Jesse Cunningham. Their son was Rashad Cunningham. He got killed by this pig named Isaiah Price III. This is the second person that he's killed. You know what I'm saying? He killed somebody over in Chicago, moved over in Gary, killed somebody else, and you know what? He's still on the street, being beaten up 16-year-old. Last time I heard, he beat up a little 16-year-old dude and then planted drugs on him, but he don't even lock him up. He lets him go from the scene of the crime. You know what I mean? I don't know what he wants to get a case on him or something like that, but they talk about throwing out his case and everything like that.
Hey, Kwame.
You know what I'm saying? But it just goes to show that these type of situations is normal. That family up in Gary, Indiana, which is a predominantly all black city, I want to point that out. A black mayor. You know what I'm saying? Karen Freeman Wilson was the mayor up there. Now Jerome Prince, a black police chief, and all black police officers up there. And it's still the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So it don't matter if we have more black police on the street. In some cases, they're even worse. Because up in Gary, they've been doing this for a long time, sweeping under what one of their police chiefs went to federal prison back in like 2006, 7, 8, somewhere around there, because he went to a person that suspected of robbing his house. He ended up having his police officers drag him, go get him, and then he commenced with handcuffs behind his back, commenced to stomping him out. You know what I'm saying? And that was one of the few cases that somebody went to prison.
Hey, real quick, Kwame. Doc, can I ask you a question? Dr. Earl, can I ask you a question? From a professional standpoint, you gotta get yourself off mute. There you go.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so there was a question of what's the reason? Do you mind? First of all, let me ask you: do you mind?
I don't mind.
Okay. So, what's the reason that the litigation would take 2 years in this case, whereas some folks think that if it's the opposite way, it does not take 2 years?
Oftentimes, it's just a matter of awareness. You notice how when, for example, I'm down in South Carolina, so I'm not in Indiana. I'm familiar with some of those instances you're referring to, but not all of them. But if you'll take, for example, the Ahmaud case down in Georgia, that case did not come to light for over 2 months, and it was only because the public became aware of actually what happened. The same is true if you look at the Minnesota incident with George Floyd. That case likely would not be receiving the national and international media attention and coverage that it's getting had it not been for the awareness that was brought from having that cell phone image. So in many instances, when you have people that don't seem to have anybody in their corner, that's not fighting for them, that's not willing to bring their case and their issue to the forefront to show the injustice, a lot of times those cases will then just be swept under the rug. And of course, the police department is always going to look out for themselves, which is the problem. But we need to be able to have an awareness and a voice so that people know what's going on. People can actually see it. But more importantly, not just people, because we know what's been going on. We've been seeing it. You know, we've got, 5 African-American men on here right now. I know myself, Chris, both have been in situations where a simple stop just goes awry. You know, I've not had to spend any time in prison, thank God. That's probably because I had a praying grandmother and just the grace of God. But the reality is we know what's going on. They don't know what's going on. And until they see how bad it is, all it sounds like is we are just complaining. And so there has to be some awareness. We have to keep our foot on the pedal and allow them to be able to see what's going on. And when you can't see it, somebody has to sound the alarm. Somebody has to say the name. Somebody has to get out there and put it on the forefront so that others can see. When I say others, I mean non-people of color, because unfortunately, the people that are not of color are the ones that run this country. The ones that can then be outraged and help promote some change other than us will be them. And so we have to not only unite amongst ourselves, which is a separate issue that I think we need to work on. We're one of the only ethnic groups on the planet, quite honestly, that we don't come together and unite for our own uplifting, our own benefit. You see Jewish people did it. You see Irish people did it when they migrated here from Ireland. You see Hispanics do it. We, however, don't do it. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I'm not casting blame or judging. There's a lot of reasons that is, and a lot of that has to do with, the culture of slavery that was perpetuated for generations and generations. Some of that, or much of that, still exists today. Until we can get on the same page ourselves and then pull in those others to help make it more known and create more awareness, the powers that be aren't going to listen to us because we're just whiners. So from my perspective, that's generally what I see. And you'll see that in the system. The system will. I guess it's to put it more plainly, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Unless there is a squeaky wheel, it's just going to get pushed under the rug. And it's been pushed under the rug for years because it's become the norm.
Right. Hey, so you know what I always say? Sometimes you got to flip a table to get somebody's attention. Hey, what's up, Ron? Ron, you got a question or comment?
I do. I have a question, probably more specifically for Mr. Lawyer, sir. I don't remember what calling him tonight, and Kwame, because we've had this conversation the last couple weeks. So as a Pilgrim woman, I have, I'm part of this movement as an ally. And so I have a lot of other Pilgrims coming to me, asking me a lot of questions. And of course, I don't have the answers, but I try to navigate those conversations to the best of my ability. So what do the allies do? How do we best serve the movement? And how do we keep our foot on the gas also and not run ourselves too low, because this is not a fight that allies are used to fighting every single day?
All right, Kwame, I'm gonna put that to you because I think you can answer that question the best. And then I want you to talk about though your because I know Shaka talked about there's several different kind of like departments, and so I want you to answer that question and talk about the departments that the new African Black Panther Party has, if you could, please.
Okay, so within the United Panther movement, well, let's say in the new African Black Panther Party, we have two arms of our Vanguard Party. We have the we have the Brown Panther Organization as well as the White Panther Organization with two chairmen that sit on our central committee. It comes really from Fred Hampton back in 1969 when he formed the Rainbow Coalition. And Fred Hampton said at the end of the day, it's a class struggle. He brought together the Young Lords, which is one of the founders of that was who is the founder of that is Jose Chacha Jimenez, which is actually a good friend of mine. He's really proud to see what we out here doing. He's still alive today up there in Chicago. But the Young Lords was originally a street gang that became revolutionary. He brought them into the Rainbow Coalition. He also brought in the Young Patriot Organization, which was a white organization. They had some racist tendency. A lot of people don't realize this. They even had the Confederate flag at the time, and Fred Hampton got a lot of flack for bringing them into the Rainbow Coalition. But one thing that he saw with them, they weren't neo-Nazis type of white supremacists. They were racists that you saw. At that time, they were scared of black people, and they didn't know, they only focused on their own oppression. But when Fred Hampton, with Bobby Lee and some of the other leaders came to them and explained to them what's happening in your community, also up in Chicago, it's happening to us. You live in the same impoverished neighborhoods that we live in. You got rats and roaches as well. You live right down the street from us. You know what I'm saying? The police has been harassing y'all as well. You know what I'm saying? Y'all have low income employment, underpaid, and a lot of the same circumstances with us. And once they started to realize they was dealing with the same issues in the system, even though it wasn't the same level of oppression, because let's keep it real, black people been dealing with the oppression a lot worse than even lower class white people. But let's keep it real. Majority of the white people is the welfare system is made up of mostly white people. You know what I'm saying? It's not mostly black people. You know what I'm saying? All these food pantries and stuff is a whole lot of white people sitting in line as well. And once they was able to bring that class consciousness to the Young Patriots, and they started to realize their white supremacy and their racist tendencies was a division of uniting the lower class, they end up giving up their Confederate flags and stuff and starting to unite with the Panthers all the way around the board, and they became 100% revolutionaries, just like the Black Panther Party and just like the Young Patriots. Now, that model we took from the 60s today, and we have that internally. And one thing that we want our white comrades to do is to recognize at the end of the day, liberation has to be a black-led liberation in this country. White supremacy, that what is antithetical to white supremacy is black people. You know what I'm saying? Because we was due to slavery, we was put at the very bottom of this social economic pyramid. You know what I'm saying? And so what we ask our allies to do today I'll give a real example with the situation with Dre Sean Reed. The reason why we was able to respond to that so quickly is because I had formed the Rainbow Coalition in Indianapolis, and we was targeting prisons due to this COVID-19. We was already doing demonstrations. Our first demonstration was downtown at the county jail. Then we did the women's prison. Then we did Westfield and I think Westfield. And then you had the Dre Sean Reed situation happen. And when that Dre Sean Reed happened, a lot of people don't realize this. I was one of the few black people a part of the Rainbow Coalition. Majority of the people that was in my coalition was white revolutionaries. You know what I'm saying? And when I tell people the history of what happened when we shut down the streets in Dre Sean Reed's situation, it perplexes everybody because it was actually my white revolutionaries that I called. I said, man, we got this situation that killed somebody in my neighborhood. I need all of y'all hands on deck down here. So they provided the resources like the microphones, the medics, and they played the background role. You know what I'm saying? Let me lead the marches. Let me helping organize and mobilize the masses out there on 62nd and Michigan Road. And so a lot of people thought it was just black-led all together, and no white people was a part of that. But if you watch the videos of the Facebook, YouTube videos, you will see that there's a lot of white people that was out there that was standing in solidarity with us. Those were my revolutionary allies. And they recognized at the end of the day that their role was to be a supporting role in order for the black revolutionaries to take the lead and to galvanize the community, you know what I'm saying, and do what we did out there. So like, for instance, when we was had to stand off with the police, our white revolutionaries was on the flanks, on the left and right flank, and their job was to watch out for the police while we was holding a rally and stuff. Or some of their roles was medic support, to come out there if somebody something happened to someone, they were supposed to come out there and give medic support to individuals out there, food, water, stuff like that. Some of the economic resources and stuff. You know what I mean? They always had a supportive role. You know what I'm saying? While having us lead. So that's the main thing that white allies can do, is to recognize that any fundamental change in this country, especially from a revolutionary standpoint, it has to be black-led. You know what I'm saying? And only through black liberation can white liberation ever become complete, where white people can be free from this system by standing in solidarity with black people that's fighting against white supremacy, that stands as the arch enemy of this system. You know what I'm saying? And then once we overthrow this system, yeah, we're revolutionaries. We just like Malcolm X said, when we talk about revolution, we really mean this. This ain't something that we just talk about abstractly. This is something we really working towards, like the original Black Panther Party. You know what I'm saying? And when we bring about a new society, white people will actually be free from their oppression of white supremacy, because they're living in a system that is going to be about promoting humanity at large and what is in the best interest of humanity at large. So what we tell white people is the first thing you have to do is commit race suicide. You know what I'm saying? You got to give up your white skin privilege. You know what I'm saying? All your privileges of being white, and whatever that means that you got to give that up and stand with the Black Liberation Movement. You know what I'm saying? And once you become that, then yeah, you can be out here boots on the ground with us and be just as revolutionary with us. But at the end of the day, it has to be black-led.
So I got a question for the whole group. It doesn't matter who it is. I got a question for the whole group. I've heard a lot here going on. By the way, thank you, Kwame. I heard a lot going on here recently where people are like, man, I am so tired. Like, you know, this whole movement has me tired. I'm worn out because of all this conversation. I don't want to hear this no more. You know, and it's funny because I think to myself, man, you know, I'm a man of a certain age, and I've been working through this thing for a long time. You know, if you want to really be tired, try doing it for, I don't know, 40 years or something, right? It's been like 2 weeks, and cats are tired. So I tell you what, Long Green, I want to hear what you got to say about this. Jeezy. Hey, folks, we got Fancy Nancy that joined us as well. She's up in the house. She looks like she's quiet right now, but I'm sure she'll have a few things to offer. And then, Ron, I want you to bring it home. What we got?
I mean, them being tired is, you know, I want to say it's a cop-out, but, I mean, like you said, Moose, we've been dealing with this our whole lives, you know, for the most part. but it's part of the systemic problem. You know what I'm saying? It's nice people are there, you know, when this stuff initially goes down and what have you, but because they're white privilege, they oftentimes have that opportunity to continue to ignore what's really going on, to continue to say, you know, well, I'm gonna do this for the next couple of weeks, but then from there it's on y'all. You know what I mean? So I see people talking about being fatigued, you know, but again, it's a fight we're in every day as Black people. You know what I mean? So it's like, to some degree, my position is that if you're not in this for the long haul to see change all the way through, you'll just don't waste our time. You know what I mean? Just move out of the way. So, you know what I'm saying? I feel like anybody who's genuine and who really cares and understand that there's some real evil systemically in this country, I feel like they're going to be in this to win this with us. You know what I mean? So that's my take on it.
And, you know, hey, real quick to add to it, Jeezy, Kwame hinted to the fact that their party wants folks to kind of denounce their take, like kind of what they've grown up to, and kind of adhere to what we're used to. And then there's also, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it hinted towards the economics of society. So, you know, there's a situation where the blacks and the poor whites are really going through kind of the same thing. And I want you guys to kind of touch on that too. When you
I guess where I'm looking at with the whole what's been going on is what's the next move? Like what's the end game? Like like there are steps to this. Obviously, we right now we have the world's ear, and now that we got the world's ear, what are we going to do with it? Like, what is our ask? Like, what do we want from this? And what can we obtain from this? You know, is it police reform? Is it reparations? Is it, I mean, what is it that we want as a collective group? Because, that has to be something that we have to come together and say, okay, this is what we demand, this is what we want, this is what we expect. If we don't have anything that we want, then this is a bunch of the same thing. The cycle just continues because we don't know, we're not moving in a direction saying what exactly that we want as a community.
Okay. All right. I want other folks to kind of chime in before we move forward. That was a great question. I'll try my best to remember it. you know how that goes. Hey,
let me jump in for just 1 second if I can, bro. First of all, let me apologize. My phone died, so I had some technical difficulty over here. I apologize.
You got that old Fisher Price technology down there in the Kakalackas.
No, but in response to what the brother was just saying, I think our next move, power begets power. We have to identify our power as a people. Right now, our power, our biggest strengths or our biggest powers are one, power of the vote, which we don't utilize and exercise nearly enough. We don't do it consistently. And then number two is we have to utilize the power of our economic resources. And that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier when I was talking about, you know, some of these other ethnicities when they came over here. They created these micro economies amongst themselves that pushed themselves up. We as Black people have an enormous amount of economic wealth. I believe I just read something this week that estimated that among African Americans, we represent roughly 18%, 20% of the population of the United States.
Maybe only 13, Doc. 13%.
We wield nearly $3 trillion of economic power.
Wow.
So if we can find out or figure out how to pull those two powers together, that economic power and that power of our vote, then that will beget additional power. The power that we need is power in places where policies are being changed. Statutes and legislation is being introduced and changed, because until that happens, you know, we're going to be sitting out here on the outside crying. That's one of the things that was really brilliant, as ignorant, as I believe our president is. One thing I will give that joker credit for in concert with Mr. McConnell and the Senate, is they got on the same page and they put some record number of judges in place on the district level, on the appellate court level, and on the Supreme Court level. Until we start getting people in places of power where decisions are being made, city council, mayor, chief of police, senators, governors, state governors, U.S. congressmen, until we can start getting that to happen, that's the only way that policies are going to change. That's the only way that laws are going to change. And as long as it remains as it is, they will always dictate what is going to happen to us, and they do it in their own best interest. They aren't going to be overly concerned about what we think is in our best interest. And they will convince those that are like us, but don't look like us, that they are on the same footing with these wealthier people. Because there are, particularly in the South, and I see it every day, there are poor and lower income white people that are so opposed to our view, when the reality is our views and our positions,
very
what's
similar,
important, aren't all that different.
No.
The only difference is the color of our skin. And they would rather be able to have the authority to say or feel like they are a little better than us, even if the ones that are actually in authority making the rules are making rules and legislation that don't even inure to their own self-interest. They feel better being able to say, well, yeah, still, we're better than black folks. And that's not new either. That was the same back in slavery times when they had the slavers, those white men that didn't run the plantations, didn't own the plantation, but they were the ones that actually managed and supervised and administered much of the discipline to the slaves in the field. They were poor themselves, but they weren't much better than the slave, but they were white. And so because they were white, they saw themselves as a little better. And it didn't matter that the slave master didn't treat them really all that much better, other than they weren't in chains, they weren't in bondage, they were free to move throughout the country and throughout the city and the state whenever they pleased. Aside from that, they really didn't have all that much more power or authority than we had. So again, power begets power. We have to recognize what our power is. Right now, our biggest two powers, in my opinion, is our economic power and our power of the vote. And until we cohesively start to use those two powers to affect change on a national and then global stage, we're going to continue to be here on the outside crying and whining about how bad it is. And I don't mean whining to say or sound like I am, minimizing the impact or what we suffer, because I've had to deal with it. I've seen people, friends, I've seen family members have to deal with it as well. But that is simply to say, that's all it's going to be. It'll never rise to anything much more than just a whining child. We've got to coalesce those powers and use them to our advantage. And once we do that, once we get ourselves in places of authority, in places of power, where people now that look like us will start to make decisions that are affecting us and that are better serving our interests.
I need a gavel. I need a gavel. I need a gavel to get your attention, because boy, you was going. You're my favorite. You're my favorite lawyer. I'm just gonna say that. Between you and Kwame, I like talking, and Jeezy likes talking. Between you and Kwame, we can really just be quiet and let y'all kind of go. But this is our show, though. So quit making quit making us look bad.
And as a side note, I would love to hear Dr. Sir. I don't know.
Just Daryl. Just
call him Daryl. That's fine.
I think you should voice record some daily affirmations. You speak with such conviction that I think starting people's day with positive thoughts, voice recorded by you, could make you some extra cash.
Hey, that's you know what? Hey, that's how he is. All right, so check this out real quick. What I want to do is I want to go to the Health Connection and Fancy Nancy. But real quick, Kwame, I want you in your mind thinking, because we're coming back to you in a second. I want you to think about some of the stuff you said is very, very clear to what you said. And I do believe that when you talk about the lower class pilgrims, right? The lower class pilgrims are the same as the brothers, man. They got a dog in the backyard chained up named King. They got exhaust manifold in the front yard. They chill out on the front porch. They do all the same stuff. They do all the things that make them comfortable, make some black folks comfortable as well. But there's some sort of disconnect. If they did get together, holy cow, it'd be a dangerous group, a dangerous coalition of people that are like minded. All right. Health Connection. As the police officer in the group, and you don't hesitate to speak from that podium, and I'm glad that you do. I'm glad that you stand there and you do it. Go. What are your thoughts on? And listen,
I like to.
Listen. I'm about to do it like we had church or something. And I like to keep your comments to 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes, please, as we have so many speakers in the house tonight.
Well, to Brother Kwame, Dr. Jeezy, it is so simple, yet it's not easy to answer all of your statements and questions and addressing. It's based upon, if we as a people don't know what to ask, we won't be told. My grandfather once told me, he said, "How do you hide something from a black man?" And I said, "I don't know." He said, "You put it in a book." So he opened the book, and in between each page, he had $100 bill in all of his books. So that was mind-boggling to me, not because he chose to hide his money there, but it's the quest for knowledge. It's to know who to ask. It's to know who to go to empower oneself, to get us to be able to come together, to not just pretty much complain, as has been said or pointed out, but to come together with some quality questions and answers in order to be a part. As Brother Kwame says, something I say quite every day of my life. You know, you choose to be a part of the solution or you choose to be a part of the problem. The choice is yours. What brought me into the respect of law enforcement, I mean, as you all know, that know me, I got in trouble. I was housed in the same jail that I helped run and manufacture. I was in there, and when I was in there, I got to see first-handedly, being a man of a certain age and a man of a certain color, I got to see those people who don't treat people with respect, who don't treat people the way they want to be treated. So I prayed, and I said, "Lord, if you get me through this, I promise to come back and be a part of the solution, not the problem." So now, hindsight, that's being 6 years ago, I've had the opportunity to be blessed to have persons of interest here to whereas I can let them know how things affect me and affect my community, and to let them know a heartfelt perspective. So when people shut you down and they close that deaf ear and turn that deaf perspective on you, they generally do it because they see it as a complaint. But I have been asked almost every day for the past 4 weeks, someone has called me, messaged me, texted me in the regard to asking what should they do to actually help the situation. What should they do to make things better? That's where we start making a difference, is asking the question of, what can I do to make things better? Because so many people are saying they're tired. The fight is never over. I personally got pulled over in uniform by another law enforcement officer, and I know he was wrong because I recorded the whole thing. And I was asked by powers that be to remove the post that I had posted because they don't like us to show us doing things that we shouldn't be doing. But I had to point out that it's not a black problem, it's not a white problem, it's a people problem.
Hey, listen, I need you to be careful. I want you to keep working. I like you having your RC cars and all that. So I want you to keep working. So I'm gonna cut you off because I know how you are. I mean, your conviction. You wear your heart on your sleeve. But I want you to keep working though. So so I'm gonna cut you off because I know where you are. Hey man, I tell you what, man, it's Moose. Join the show, man. It's one of our long time folks, man. Colorado's up in here, man. He said it looks like he's chilling in San Fran tonight.
I switch on my background.
It's all good. And then we also got books in the house as well. All right, Fancy, you heard all this commentary.
I did. You initially asked about being tired.
Yeah.
I personally don't feel tired. I feel invigorated. And I'll take it from a couple places, and you cut me off where you need to.
I will.
I fully believe that we manifest and bring about what we want to see. And it's not that simple, but it is that simple. And so what invigorates me is that I see people fighting and moving and bringing attention to all that is wrong, but people joining in to say, wow, I didn't think that thought before. Or maybe I should do that different. Maybe I should ask some more questions. And so I, every day, remind myself, be it our racial relations, our social relations, my work conditions, they say that people operate at a second grade reading and learning understanding. And so I say to myself, before I feel any emotion, I'm amongst second graders. And it gives me a good perspective because second graders are hungry for information. They don't have preformed bias, and they're willing to accept any information before them. And I feel that our world is getting a lot of bad information, and it's divisive and it's hostile, but they're still second graders. And that gives me hope.
Okay.
The other piece of that is that I do not have the answers. I love what you guys are sharing about being behind the scenes. I'm a huge fan of networking. I'm a huge fan of let me know what you need, being Mary in a Martha world. I'm ready. And each day that I wake up, I know that I don't own the struggles of my brothers and my people that I support, but I'm willing to fight and be ready. And I feel that education is power. And in working with the collective, instruction is of the utmost importance. And I'm personally ready to receive instruction, which leaves me invigorated. Nothing excites me personally more than a challenge, no matter how backwards, uphill, or unlikely to achieve. That's my personal little power trip. So I love that our nation's awake. I love that we have second graders ready to learn, however misdirected and fucking crazy right now.
Pineapples.
And I 100% believe in the power of numbers with a lot of you that have brought up and spoken before me. It's been extremely helpful. It isn't just the vote, but there's so much power in the vote. And it's not electoral college, and it's not presidential. It's your DA, it's your sheriff, it's your local office. I'm feeling and choosing to be optimistic and invigorated.
Hey, so I got a question.
I buried 2 men too young this week, both from violent crimes. And despite that, I wake up every morning in my reflections and I choose to be invigorated because I will not be defeated by hate. I will not be defeated by sadness or grief. I choose to put one foot moving forward.
Hey, you know what? Hey,
one thing I want to add is I think I had a discussion with one of my buddies this week, and when do you think it's time that we, as a culture, kind of shift the way what we view as entertainment and what music we listen to? Because as you know, music can influence a lot of things in our culture more so than anything else. And what I'm saying is, in our music, we're the only music that consistently kill ourselves in our songs.
Wait, Jeezy, who are you asking that to?
And music like Common, artists like Common, artists like I forget his other name. I forget his name.
Exactly.
They speak. They have. I know, right? But that's my point. The music that speaks in a more positive light don't get played on the radio. It gets no airplay.
Jeezy.
It gets no clicks.
What? Who are you asking the question to? You asking D-Lo?
To the floor. I'm not the host of the show.
I know we're not there yet. We're not at that point yet. I love you, but we're not there yet.
No, it's a free form. It's a form. It's an open form.
It's my turn.
I don't disagree with you in your luxury vinyl chair.
It was. Here's the thing. No, here's the thing. Hey, everybody, please put that in the back of your minds. How I know me, Moose growing up listening to NWA. made me not a CEO of a business that's pretty successful right now. Who knows?
See, that's the problem. And me and D-Lo talked about this. Everybody on this show has the ability. We have the charisma and the ability to navigate the waters. But a large group of the population don't have that charisma, don't have that mindset to say, "Oh, that's just music." Everybody in this room, we can agree that it's just songs. However, to sit here and deny that music does not influence the masses is ridiculous.
I hear you saying, as a marketing term and a way to reach the masses, music would be a good social platform for awakening and empowerment. I think it's one of many good platforms. And another, to me, if someone is feeling tired, then I would say, I understand your fatigue. I would encourage you to find some quiet time, and in 5 minutes, search your center and your grounding, restore yourself from whatever that would be, and prepare yourself to fight again. Because
Are we gonna do
no
yoga?
leader started from fatigue, but everyone experienced it.
Hey, real quick, Fancy. Hey, I don't know if anybody knows, but you notice how Fancy takes it back to my original question. I appreciate that, by the way. Hey, real quick, Kwame. Well, hold on, Kwame. Do you have time to hang out with us and go all the places we're going, or do you?
I'm good.
Okay,
I'm
all right.
Florida, just hanging out right now.
All right, I want to respect your time. The rest of us hang out. The rest of us hang out, but I want to respect your time to make sure that as long as you can hang and give your thoughts in there. What about Daryl? Since we using your government name, you cool to hang out and use your expertise as well?
Yeah, I'm here for a minute. I'm
all
good.
All right, outstanding.
I'm about done with my cigar, but that's all right.
Outstanding. Hey, well, I appreciate you as well. And then everybody else, I think, is just joining us. Colorado, glad to see you, by the way. And then, and guess what, guys? Cindy is here. She didn't want me to use the fancy name I gave to her. Cindy's here, too. She's listening. So, what's up, Cindy?
My wife,
there she is.
Husband, wife, husband, ex.
Yeah, it's my ex-wife's husband's wife. I think that's what I said. I can't remember now.
It was long.
I thought you just said Cindy. I was happy with Cindy. Hi, Cindy.
Cindy, she's
Hi.
here. Cindy, she's
We're
here.
glad you're here.
She's good. Yeah, she's joining, and she's an ally too, by the way. And just to give you some real quick feedback, back in the day, like if I was mad about something and I'm arguing and they gave me a hard time, I'd be like, "Can you talk to these cats?" And she can go off on them, and they'd be like, "Yes, ma'am, we'll take care of it." The same stuff I was trying to get done. A minute ago. So she's been down for a long time. All right. So. All right, I got to get some. This is the Heavy Hitters Radio Show, folks. I'm the host, Moose, aka Big House. You got LGZ and Baku in here. He's the star of the show, man. We got Run EMC, man. She's a lady of the house, man. We got DJ Longgreen, who, if you're looking on the screen, is below me. He's in here too, but he's the voice. He's the voice of the show. And then we got guests tonight, man. We got the one, the only. Not the one, the only, but we got the Health Connection up in the house. We got Fancy Nancy. Who's been a part of the show a long, long time. We got Colorado, who's been listening a long time. Now we see his face. Welcome, Colorado. Enjoy San Fran.
And the Golden Gate Bridge.
No, we got one of my main men from my college days. Who I'm very proud of him. He's a lawyer in South Kakalaka, man. He's up in here, man. Daryl Bush, Esquire from Central State University, Jeezy. And Wilberforce. Yeah, we do stuff. Hey, guess what, guys? We got. Listen up. Let's focus. We got Book in the house, man. And B's in here, man. His show's coming soon. And you know what else, man? It looks like D Little C's in here, man. The little season joined us too, and his mama Cindy. Put a shirt on. All right. So, all right, here we go.
His vibe?
No, he needs to put a shirt on. We post this. He needs to have a shirt on.
I just got out the shower.
And one of our special guests tonight is Kwame Shakur. He is the Minister of Culture for the new African Black Panther Party, man, who is dropping some serious knowledge on us, along with Daryl Bush and some of the other folks. All right, guys. Heavy's Radio Show. The name of the show, Jeezy, is called
Blacks for Trump? ?
Blacks for Trump 2020 ? And then, hey, D-Lo, you can catch us on what platforms?
Please shuffle your feet.
You can catch us on Facebook at the Heavy Hitters Radio Show. You can catch us on Instagram at Heavy Hitters Radio Show. So we're out there, social media wise, and I'm sure Ron can give us a rundown of where we're at from a podcast perspective.
Run podcast. Where can you catch us?
If you want to listen live at 8-ish on Tuesdays, you can find us on Spreaker.com.
Danish like Blackish.
Yeah. Hey, unfortunately, we do operate on CPT sometime. Anyway, go ahead. Go ahead, Ron.
If you are on Spreaker at 8 o'clock waiting for us, you might be waiting, and that's okay. We are worth the wait. And then after Tuesday night, you can find us anywhere you find your podcast. Just search Heavy Hitters Radio or Independent Radio, INDY, Pendant Radio. And if you search our independent radio site, then you'll be able to find our other shows as well.
Hey, man, I'm gonna tell you something that's cool about us, man. We're on, like, Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. What's that other fancy one? There's another
Spotify.
There's another fancy one.
That bag, man. And the Heavy Hitters can use some of that money too.
There's another fancy one we're on too, man. We're on all the fancy stuff, man.
iHeartRadio.
That's it, iHeartRadio. So check us out, man. We're on all that stuff. We're on all that. Hey, all right. So it's Moose, aka Big House, man. We got everybody in the house, and today we are. This is about our third or fourth week, man, tackling what's going on right now. And so I'm gonna bounce it quick back to Kwame Shakur, who's the Minister of Culture for the new African Black Panther Party. All right, Minister Shakur, how do we move forward? How do we, Gigi asked this question, how do we make the next steps into creating a system or a society that is working together, right? That is revolutionary, as you say. And then, hey, listen, hold on. While you putting that together, Daryl, I want you to talk to me about the legal aspects of what you hear. Can you do that for me, please?
To the extent that I can, I will try, friend.
Outstanding. All right, go ahead. I like that, man. He's a smart dude, man. All right, go ahead, Kwame.
Okay, so I answer that question first by saying this. When we look back in the 60s, Martin Luther King, a lot of people don't realize a lot about what Martin Luther King really represented. You know what I'm saying? He represented two different things at two different points of his life and his evolution. The Martin Luther King in 1963, I Have a Dream, Martin Luther King, is very fundamentally different than the 1968. I See It as a Nightmare like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. You know what I mean? The first one saw as the civil rights struggle. The one in 1968 saw it as a class struggle, a human rights struggle. You know, he started to speak on issues like capitalism. He said that racism is a byproduct of capitalism. You know what I'm saying? We live in a capitalist nation. What does that mean? Just that comment right there. You're never going to get rid of white supremacy as long as you have capitalism. You know what I'm saying? That's something that we have to really, really think about and contemplate, because even if Martin Luther King, as much as I respect him, he was not even a full revolutionary, but he already recognized that himself. Malcolm X said the same thing. Racism is a byproduct of capitalism. The Black Panther Party was the first one to put it in a revolutionary context with a scientific approach of what does that mean and how do we go about the solution. So with that said, I want to say this. Some of the speakers was talking about voting. You know, I understand that way of thinking. You know what I'm saying? But I have to respectfully disagree from a scientific standpoint. If racism can never be reformed away because it's a byproduct of capitalism, you will always have it. And we just got to come to grips with that and accept that we're going to either accept this system or we're going to replace this system. You know what I'm saying? So if racism is a byproduct of it, also as a byproduct of that is sexism. Women will always be oppressed under a capitalist system, period. You know what I'm saying? We got to come to accept that. Also, wars of imperialism. All these wars that's been going on for the last several hundred years, it's a part of a system of domination where these countries are fighting over resources. They're fighting over geographical, political territory in the world. that would never end under capitalism. You know what I'm saying? That will still go on. You know what I'm saying? The climate change. We're destroying our environment. And a lot of people don't talk about this, but we're going to go extinct if we allow this capitalist system to exist. Because you know why? The capitalists ain't going to give up their big $1 billion bucks when they got fossil fuel oil over there in the Middle East, down in different countries and stuff where they actually profit off of. But one other thing, the oppression of immigrants. That is a fundamental pillar of a capitalist system. So if you take it outside of this United States and look at it from a global standpoint, this global system of capitalism and imperialism is the problem. You can't vote that out. You can't reform that out. You have to replace that. If Martin Luther King understood that, Malcolm X understood that, and also the Black Panther Party, why can't we understand that today?
All right, so
you know what I'm saying?
I like what you're saying. I got one thing. So you do realize, and then I think we're opening up to Mr. Bush to Dr. Bush after that. So you do realize that there between Barack Obama's last election and the election that we brought in Donald Trump, there was over 2 million less black voters because of who was going in office, which would have, by the way, swayed us in the correct direction. I don't know if it's the correct direction, but it would have swayed us in a different direction, right? It would have swayed us in a different direction.
A different direction.
Right, a different direction. So I mean, you know, I feel like Moose feels like that you know that the vote does count. Jeezy and then Bush.
Well, what I was going to say is as far as like what's happening to black people in this country, it don't matter who the president was. It could have been Hillary, and those people, the George Floyds and everybody that stuff would have still happened. It's still so Trump being in the White House has nothing to do with what's happening with the police force and what they're doing to black people. Because when Obama was president, all those people died as well. And it's like we seem to forget that. Like everything, this stuff has been happening
we
for
don't
years.
Forget.
Like the guy said, it's part of the system. And it's going to continue to happen.
Yeah, no, Jeezy, I don't think we forget. Matter of fact, I don't know if I'm gonna lose my man card or not, but I watched Becoming today. You got anybody heard that? It's on Netflix. It's like the show about Michelle Obama or something. I watched it because look,
you can hold a man card and watch Becoming because I would say one, it's informative, and two, it's very comforting.
It was.
So it's a socially acceptable, man card approved, comforting, find your roots.
That's a lot.
Restore.
That's a lot. And you know what it was?
Yeah.
I was sad because I finished the Avatar and I texted Little C and I'm like, what do I do with my life now? I'm done with the Avatar and I watched the Michelle Obama show. All right. Bush, go ahead, man.
Number one, there are some absolutes. There are three things that will always be in society. There is no way around it.
I know one.
We don't necessarily like it, but it is an absolute truth.
Is death one of them?
We will always have poverty in society. There's no way, there will never be a way to completely eradicate poverty. Poverty has been here since the days of Jesus. That's just an absolute. It's unfortunate, but it is an absolute. Number two, as long as there are different races, there will be racism. Now, I say that with a qualification. Just because I do believe that racism will always exist, I don't believe that the tail should necessarily be wagging the dog. There are far more people that are not racist and that are more open-minded than to allow a small segment of the population to dictate the overwhelming way of society is run. The other thing is capitalism. We're just not going to get rid of capitalism. I hear what Brother Kwame is saying. It's not going anywhere. It's not. So those are three absolutes. What we've got to do is figure out how to better control the reins of the system that is in place and correct the things that are flawed to the extent that we can correct them. And so I say that because even though I don't think that we're going to ever eradicate poverty, even though I don't think they'll ever eradicate racism or capitalism, there is still a degree of control that we can have so that the majority of the populace can be controlled by that more majority frame of thought.
All right, wait,
so that's number one.
Wait, all right, sorry. So, judging by what you said and what Brother Kwame said, Minister Kwame said, all right, so today, was that today? Yeah, today or yesterday, I guess, by now. Yesterday, the Supreme Court voted, was it 6-3, that you cannot be fired from your job if you are LGBT and all the rest of the letters. Is it Q? Somebody said that? Yeah, Q.
Yes.
So you're not able to. So like they have the same rights, civil rights, as women and women in the job in their job and that kind of thing. And the winning letter was written by a Trump appointed judge that said, you know what, this is unconstitutional. We don't believe it, and they won. Is that part of the change? I tell you what, run. We're gonna go run with that, and then D-Lo, Jeezy, and then Kwame finish it up, and then maybe Health Connection if you got something with your paddles. Go ahead.
So I think it is part of a change, because I think that a lot of people who voted for Trump or who were Trump supporters are reevaluating some things, and it's never going to be all of them. But I do think it's powerful to see people in appointed positions go against the ruling that we assume would happen. And I never saw a furious tweet about it, which is surprising. I may have missed it because like 1,000 of them go out every single day.
It did not happen.
But I didn't ever see one. He's more concerned about sipping water and law and order. So,
all right, D-Lo, what you think, man?
I think it's a good thing, that it got passed. But I'm probably a little bit softer on the issue, just in terms of the fact that, homosexuality is out here. Like it's widely accepted by people. Everybody knows and probably cares about somebody gay. So I almost feel like it's a little bit of a softball. I mean, Obama did kind of set things up as far as trying to move out some of the discrimination and making homosexuality a little bit more firm. But I'm not surprised. It's the harder issues that I judge the Supreme Court on. Certainly I completely agree that, people of the LGBTQ community should have protected rights as people. Because I remember a time, where they took a lot of abuse from straight people, myself included. So, I'm glad that we progressed as a country, but it was going to happen. I think they've had to deal with some systemic issues that, again, I think Obama kind of laid the foundation for being resolved. But their systemic conditions are not the same as us as black folks. So
I got a question for you.
Can I jump the floor?
Wait, hold on. No, I got a question.
Oh.
So since they got the LGBTQ, do they get double? They get double. Like if you're black, you get the fact that you're LGBTQ.
No.
GT. I don't know how to say it. And black. I mean, like, do you get a double? Do you get double duty for that?
No. LGBTQ. No, you don't get double duty. The court's ruling protects gay, lesbian, and transgender employees from being disciplined, fired, or turned down for a job based on their sexual orientation. So I don't want to rain on your parade, but this is simply upholding the 1964 sexual discrimination law and actions. However,
I'm clear.
And valuable for sexual orientation, this does not extend into race or other social circumstances. This simply means that your sexual orientation cannot be used against you in any job.
So it was women.
It does not say in any job.
It was women, right? It was
cannot
women.
be used against you in any job.
Yeah, no, you're right. It was women. And by the way, I don't go to parades because they charge you for them now. If I can't stand there and watch it for free, I'm not going. But it's one of those things where.
It can.
Hold on, Fancy. Go ahead, Ron.
It can still be used against you in some jobs. It depends on who you work for. For example, if you work for a Catholic school, because they are separate, they're privately owned and run, it can come back against you. But Moose, to go back to your question, while the person doesn't get double duty of protection and rights, they do check multiple boxes for the companies that are looking for diversity.
Wow.
So they do meet multiple boxes there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, hey, that's for sure. And what I think is interesting when both you guys, D-Lo and Fancy and Ron, you guys are talking about that. I started thinking in my mind, like, man, it's been a few years that they've been fighting for equal rights and they got it. Like it hasn't been 400 years that they've been fighting for equal rights and they already got it. Like, what the heck is going on with that, man?
No, so let us not be distracted from core disruption at hand.
For sure. You are for sure right.
The
Hey,
other thing
D-Lo.
that's still happening within the LGBTQ plus community is that Trump wants to take healthcare away from transgender individuals, so we will see that upcoming also. It's important to realize that this Supreme Court ruling was solely based on discrimination in the workplace, has nothing to do with the healthcare concerns for transgender individuals.
And you guys know, you guys know why? You guys know why it happened? You know why it happened, by the way? Old boy joined a gay softball team that was called the Honey Badgers. And his company fired him because he joined the Honey Badger softball team, and they fired him because of that. And he's like, "How you gonna fire me because I'm playing softball?" And so so that's how this whole thing got started. Jeezy.
I'll circle back.
Hold on a second. Hold on, Fancy.
If people were tired.
Hold on, Fancy. Jeezy, go.
Originally filed this died before her case was won. So
I saw that. I did see that. Yeah, but she was like a transgender. It was a man, right, that lived a life as a woman and died of kidney cancer or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brother wanted to be a woman. My point is, you cannot be tired if you want to change the world.
That's a great. Jeezy, what you got, man?
Man, well, the question that you kind of posed was, or the comment you made was, they got equal rights and they haven't been oppressed for 400 years, but they seem to get it done. The reason is they know how to mobilize, strategize, and make shit happen as a group. So that for a group, not only a group from all different sexualities, races, creeds, and cultures, manage to work together for a common goal. Imagine that. But here we are in the same group, the same race, the same culture, and we can't strategize, mobilize, and make things happen for us.
It's funny. I don't remember who I was talking to today. I was talking to somebody, and I was talking to them about the fact that that somebody sent me a meme, and it was. By the way, guys, you listen to Heavy Ears Radio Show. This is Moose, aka Big House. Somebody sent me a meme from the Sanford and Son, and it was Lamont talking to Pop, and he said, Pop, black men are dying from high blood pressure, and they're dying from diabetes and something else. And Fred G. Sanford said, "No, Lamont, I thought they was dying from police brutality." It was 1973 that was on the television. It was on a mainstream television show, by the way, that was on TV. So this folks, this is nothing new. If you want to really know, Moose was I was potty trained. I was potty trained already, but barely. I'm sure I was having accidents still. And we're still talking about police brutality and all that. So folks, listen to Heavy Ears Radio. So remember, you can catch us also on Twitter at Heavy _Hitters. And then you know what? This show will go on YouTube. and it's also on our Facebook page as well. So guys, check us out. All right, so we got the new African Black Panther Party in here, and the Minister of Culture, Kwame Shakur. Hey, Kwame, man, we appreciate you staying with us, even through all the things we're talking about. Hey, real quick, I want to take a just what
I want to answer that question though.
Oh, okay. I tell you what. Go ahead, and then I'm gonna take a moose turn. You guys okay with that? Jeezy, you cool with that? Me taking a moose turn after he answers that question.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, go ahead, Kwame.
Okay. So the reason why that happened is I look at it was a part of their co-option strategy of the system. One thing about us, the New African Black Panther Party, we support the LGBTQ movement 100%. We was infiltrated by the FBI. You know what I mean? So they know how our political policy is when it comes to the LGBTQ community. And me being a minister of culture, that's one of the things that I've been assigned to do to build up our base of the LGBTQ community. A lot of people don't realize this, but the LGBTQ movement really got started and got life with a black transsexual named Marsha P. Johnson. If it wasn't, again, black led. You know what I'm saying? This is the reason why they getting a lot of stuff done. I went to an LGBTQ conference, town hall in Indianapolis. I haven't done a lot of that since I've been out, but I started to realize I need to become more engaged in that community if we're going to bring people in. And me being a straight black man that's been 18 years in prison, who better to speak in their behalf? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So anyway, long story short, when I was a part of these conferences, I found out that a lot of the LGBTQ community is realizing that these Eurocentric, watered down approaches to that movement has to be abandoned, and it has to be black led. You know what I'm saying? Because they're not gonna. Huey P. News said one of the most oppressed groups in the United States may be the LGBTQ community. A lot of people don't know that the original Black Panther Party said that. You know what I'm saying? So the reason why I look at the Supreme Court did that is because they don't want us to have that issue. They want to give them a crumb to keep those people in the system to get out here and vote and all this other stuff, because we're going to organize that demographic for revolution, and they don't want them to do that. So if they can give them this little token breadcrumb to make them feel like they're a part of this system, they feel like they can take that issue away from us. You know what I'm saying? But it's not going to happen anyway, because at the end of the day, this system is always going to oppress LGBTQ people, you know, and we're going to give them a platform with us. You know, only within our Revolutionary Vanguard leadership can they feel fully themselves and full human beings with us. They're not going to find this in the Democratic Party. They're not going to find this in the Republican Party, but they'll find it in the New African Black Panther Party. They'll find it in the United Panther movement. And because of that, they're going to be some of the greatest revolutionaries that history's going to take note of, because they're going to realize their only liberation they're going to have is through the revolution that the Panthers is putting out here. You know what I mean? So I look at this as just some token stuff that the government did. It was smart on their part, you know, but it's not going to work. You know what I mean? Because I'm a real blunt and raw and uncut person. So I expose contradictions like that. You know what I mean? This is why they gave that to y'all, because they don't want y'all to join with a more radical organization that say it's time to do away with this system. And the only way you're going to get your liberation is through this revolution that we push. You know what I mean?
All right, yeah, no, for sure, man. I for sure appreciate you. Ron, did you have any thoughts? You have any thoughts from that?
The dogs are fighting.
Scaredy cat. I tell you what. Hold on, the little seed. You got any thoughts about anything you heard so far?
But real quick, I will chime in on what the brother said. I think he's right. I think this is one of those things where they give you a little crumb, you know, just to shut you up, so to speak, or to get you on their side. You know, because trust and believe, it's political. It's a political season. I mean, it's an election year, so they're going to do whatever they can to show graces. They're going to use that to get that vote.
All right, Lil C, you got any thoughts?
Well, right now I'm just like,
listening and taking it all in to develop my thoughts. But like,
man, he got that Fisher Price.
the crumb part was smart. It was something to do to get people's minds off what's really going on right now. And it's like political season, like Jeezy just said. So it'll be like it's trying to make the government like look good right now, so then like the elections go the way they would want them to go.
All right, man. Well said, man. 17 years old, 17 year, and what do they say these days? Woke. Hey, man. We got. In and out, man. We got one of our longtime buddies up in here, but he's not here right now. Hey, all right, guys. Heavy Radio Show. Real quick, we're gonna do a segment called "Tell Me Why You Mad, Son." It's very quick, and what I'm gonna do, man, this is gonna be kind of cool. I'm gonna open it up to everybody. You're gonna tell me why you mad. You gotta be quick, concise, one issue of why you're mad, and it doesn't have to be on what's currently happening. It can be on whatever you want it to be. I tell you what, I'm gonna start. You guys ready? Jeezy, what are we doing right now?
I'm sitting back chilling.
Tell me why you mad, son.
Oh, man. You know what? Off topic, man. I'm going to tell you why I'm mad, son. What's going on with the barbecue Nazis at the fast food restaurant show?
The what?
I don't understand. Like, my ass, man, if I get 9 chicken nuggets, man, why you giving me 1 sauce, son? Can I get 3 sauces, kid? I mean, 3, maybe 4. And then when I ask for more, you gonna tell me it's 20 cents?
Yeah.
Like, what's the difference between barbecue sauce and ketchup?
You gotta pay for it, man. I mean, come on.
You gotta pay for ketchup. Why you pay for barbecue sauce, man?
They can't get it delivered to the joint, man. I went and got a ranch sauce today and asked them for another one. They was like, nah, we can't do it because we ain't got enough.
That's what I'm saying. And by the way, Jeezy, that voice here, that's the one and only Monski, one of the originals, man. Welcome, buddy.
That's why I'm mad, yo. Like, give me some damn barbecue sauce, man.
I understand.
I'm paying $9. You can give me the extra sauce, dog.
I understand. I understand.
Bottom line.
I understand.
Y'all don't go under because you gave Jeezy extra sauce, yo.
I get it. We got it. That's why you mad, son.
So I'm mad, yo.
Hey, DJ Longgreen. Tell me why you mad, son.
The internet is hell.
Yeah, yours sucks.
So sometimes I try to be serious, and I was doing a serious search yesterday because there's been several articles now or mentionings of black men being hung or blacks being hung in general. So I was kind of checking out the news coverage. So I was wondering if any news media had picked it up. So I went looking for stories. So I go to Google. I go to the Google videos to try and find a news broadcast to see if anybody's talking about this. So I just want to tell you, when you go to Google search, you can definitely find videos for what you're looking for. But if you're going for that particular subject, I would recommend not Googling hung black men.
Here, I can help you with your search.
I was gonna say go to bed.
Just don't search hung black men.
So the actual term is hanged. So if you would search hanged, it would be a totally different response for you.
Hey man,
Black men, your Google search.
I tell you what, your search engine is forever scarred. Every time you put H in there, it's gonna be like, you talking about hung? Oh man! All right.
The very first video that popped up was the actual news story. It was just the 9 below it.
I bet it was the 9 below it. There's a joke there, folks. All right. All right, so now I understand that text message you sent earlier today. All right, run. Tell me why you mad, hon.
I'm mad because
You gotta go
I'm not that mad today.
You gotta go faster.
But I will say that I think I am maybe concerned, and I'll be mad about it at some point, that I think people are losing their opportunities for social cues by not being around other people. So, like, don't forget how to interact like a normal human, because it's super annoying when you have no idea how to pick up on social cues.
All right, outstanding. Health Connection, tell me why you mad, son. Man, chew faster.
I'm mad because I just found this bag of chicken about a week ago. Me and Jeezy had some, and I didn't have it almost every day and wonder why I ain't had it since.
Outstanding.
Chicken.
It's called Carolina Gold Rub. Chicken breast already pre-cooked. Woo! Smack your mama. It tastes so good.
That's disgusting. You guys are ridiculous. You need to learn how to cook. What, did we lose Colorado and D. Bush?
Yeah.
We lost them. Hey, I tell you what, Cindy, click your video on. Tell me why you mad, hon.
I'm mad because you know I don't like to be on Front Street. I'm a backup singer. I'm not the main attraction. So I don't like this.
You do-wop
He
girl.
always makes me sing lead.
You do-wop girl.
I'm a doo-wop all the way.
All right, hey, you know what? Hey, I'll tell you what though, we appreciate you being here. The littlest C, tell me why you mad, son. Like S-O-N. Everybody else was S-U-N, and you S-O-N.
I'm mad because every other travel baseball team in America started 3 weeks ago, and I'm still waiting to play.
All right. Folks, if you didn't know, D. Little Seeds is an exceptional baseball player in the state of Indiana. Makes class of 2021. So that's what's happening. All right, thank you. Hey, Monsky, tell me why you mad, son.
I'm mad, man, because I'm tired of hearing Kyrie Irving's mouth talking about NBA players
Talking about
stand up and play basketball at the same time and still focus on the social issues going on in the world.
Talk about it, man. And by the way, Monsky, when you talk about it, Lil C, talk about the MLB. They not gonna play either, from what I understand.
Mm-mm.
All right, go ahead, Monsky.
I don't see how Kyrie, man, is, the guy that thinks the earth is flat and all this other stuff he's complaining about over the time somehow becomes the voice of the NBA players, and all that's at the forefront. I don't get that at all. I'm sure there's probably more prominent NBA players in the league that can speak up as opposed to just Kyrie. Or maybe the media is just focusing on Kyrie. I don't know.
No, here's what I saw today, and Jeezy, I'll open up to you in a minute. But here's what I saw today. What they said was it Patrick Beverly was like, "Yo, if LeBron plays, we're all playing."
Yeah,
so
LeBron said we're open.
Yeah, so if LeBron says, "Hey, I'm playing," the league will be like, "Oh, hey, here's the schedule." They be ready. so and it's funny because I felt like Patrick Beverly was being kind of a chump, but the media is not taking the media's taking it as he's being an ally to LeBron. So that's what's happening now on the Major League front, though. Major League Baseball, they like, look, we want full pay for even this many games, that kind of thing. The Little Seed, have you been keeping up with that at all or no?
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
And I follow Andrew McCutcheon on Instagram and TikTok, and he made a video where he's talking to his son, talking about juicing water.
Yes.
Dad is the MLB, and he keeps offering the same thing, but in a different way. That's why the MLBPA keeps saying no to the offers that the MLB keeps offering them. It's because it's the same thing, but offered in a different way.
Outstanding.
So their last offer was like 48 games for 75% of their prorated salary. But the offer right before that was 60 games for 80%. And then the MLBPA keeps offering the same thing back. A different amount of games, but their full prorated salary. They offer that every time.
Right.
And until that's met, they're not going to play.
You know,
so it looks like we're not going to have MLB this year, which I understand for them.
I'm kind of with the owners on this one, man, and I'm gonna tell you why I'm with the owners.
What?
I'm gonna tell you why. I'm with the owners on this one, man. baseball, and y'all know this. Baseball is a regional sport, and it's driven a lot by ticket sales and fans actually coming to the games. So you telling me that you don't put games on TV that baseball? To be honest, when the NBA is going right now and Major League Baseball going, what are you watching? You watching the NBA. You watching also, so they're not gonna get the TV views and the shares they think they're gonna get. There's gonna be too much competition right now, and they're talking about going into the compete with the NFL and the NBA playoffs.
No.
Baseball, they don't.
No.
And you say no fans in the stands, so how am I gonna make my money back with no fans in the stands?
Well, that's capitalism.
All right, hold on, Rebecca. Monsky, go ahead. You got your hand up. Monsky got his hand up. Monsky knows how to work with Zoom. He electronically put his hand up.
The reason why I can relate to the players is because the NFL, the NBA, and I mean, with the exception of maybe the NHL, all those other major leagues, they have marketing ability. You know what I'm saying? With all those other major leagues, baseball doesn't have that. Unless you Mike Trout, unless you my man that used to play for the Washington Nationals, Bryce Harper. Unless you them guys, you them big name guys, you're not making the same money and you're not getting anything back on the back end. So I want my money as a Major League Baseball player. I want my money right now.
All in the contract.
I totally understand. Hey, Kwame, you got a comment on this section?
I got to leave in probably about 11 minutes.
Okay.
I got something I got to take care of. Is this about being mad or what? What's this question?
I tell you what. So tell me why you mad, son.
Okay. So I'm mad because there's been a long-standing problem in this country that black and brown women is keep on being abducted for sex trade, the sex trade, trafficking, and their organs, and nobody's saying nothing about it. I'm down here in Florida right now. Kaya Taylor, she's been missing since February. Veronica Reyes Diaz, she's been missing since January, and the authorities down here ain't saying nothing about it. They've been sweeping it under the rug. That's why I'm gonna be standing down here down in Florida. So yeah, I'm about to kick up dust down here in Florida for a while. You know what I mean? So this is gonna be the next national issue that we push to the forefront, because at the end of the day, if we don't start protecting our black and brown women, this could be your mother, your sister, your cousin, your daughter that could be right now in another country being sold as a sex slave somewhere. You know what I mean? So this is why I'm mad. This is a major issue over here, and if we don't do nothing about it, then we're gonna continually have this form of genocide carried out against our community. So that's why I'm mad right now.
Hey, you know what? Hey, I got two questions before you go. I got two questions. So I appreciate what you put to us, and hopefully our listeners and us start paying attention to that. And then two, how come the revolutionaries aren't still out there protesting and burning stuff up like right now, like today or last weekend or whatever? Like, is it because it's already burned up? Is it because there's a movement going? I mean, and I'm gonna post that question to you, but I know it's a heavy question, but I'm gonna post it to you.
Yeah, some of it is due to protesters, but when I went up to Minneapolis, we found out firsthand that the police was working with white supremacists, and they was busting out women. Like, we literally got video footage of the police working with white supremacists, busting out windows, and then blaming it on protesters. Literally, white supremacists and police destroying buildings down there, and then blaming it on the protesters. You know what I'm saying? So all this stuff ain't all protesters. Some of this stuff is actually the police themselves. Yeah, this might surprise a lot of people. But you ask anybody on boots on the ground up in Minneapolis, who's been down there busting out windows, and right now, every night, I don't know if this is still going on because I left Minneapolis about a week ago. But every night the street organization, which was standing actually with the community in solidarity with the protesters, they've been getting out in shootouts with white supremacists every night because they want to burn down these 2 black-owned businesses down there that's been supporting the protesters. So some of this is not all protesters, but then some of it is. You know what I'm saying? And the ones that are burning down a building, I look at it like this. Most people in this country don't realize that we get robbed every day. One of my comrades told me he was working with a company, and they actually applauded him. They said, "You produced $500,000 this week for our company." You know what I asked that comrade? I said, "How much do you get paid an hour?" He said, $13 an hour. You know what I mean? So he's produced $500,000 for this company, and he only receives $13 an hour. Most people don't realize this is modern day slavery, because I don't care if you, I don't give a damn if you give him a $20 raise. Let's do it even a step bigger. Let's give him $50 an hour. He still produced $500,000 in that 1 week for the slave master. Let's do it even a step further. Let's give him a $500 an hour for working at that same job. He still produced $500,000 for his modern day slave master. And a lot of people don't realize that we in slavery, but when you put it in those terms, you're a slave. You're just a happy slave. You know what I'm saying? That you're getting paid more than all the other slaves in the world that's only making $1 a day. You know what I'm saying? The difference between chattel slavery and slavery today, we choose our slave masters today. Whereas back in the past, we couldn't. That's where our freedom comes from, because we have the within the production relations in this system.
Yeah.
Because we can choose our slave master today. Within our social relations, we can choose where we live at. We can choose where we eat at. And even that took a struggle. You know what I'm saying? So this is a part of the reason with us, the New African Black Panther Party, we trying to educate the slaves that first they're slaves. You know what I'm saying? That you're just a modern day slave. You know what I'm saying? That you can't see your chains around your ankles and the manacles around your wrists, but that's what you are. And that's why they treat us the way they treat us, because they like, oh, the slaves is rebelling. They're acting up on the plantation now. But look, we produced all that. That brother that was producing $500,000 in a year, if he was out here looting, well, he just was getting back what he already produced for our slave masters in the first place. I don't give a fuck what he out here want to take. Because at the end of the day, it's not about them out here looting and stuff like this. It's about a statement that they're making against the system, that they're tired of them with their foot literally on our neck. And it's tired, and we had enough of it, and we rising up. A lot of people don't realize this is different than the 60s. This is a whole nother transition that happened. This didn't happen in the 60s. This wasn't going on around the whole world. This is the world people realizing that this system is illegitimate, and we're rising up. So we can talk about voting all we want, but if people don't see where the wind is going, they don't understand that the New African Black Panther Party, that we're gonna be at the forefront of where this wind is blowing. You know what I'm saying?
So real quick before you go, are you ready for a barrage of questions from our panel here? Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I don't really have one. I mean, I can just text you and ask my questions. So I tell you what, we're gonna go Jeezy, Health Connection, Long Green, Fancy Nancy, Monski, Run, Bush, Cindy. No, wait. Who is that? I can't remember who Cynthia's phone is. We're gonna go with Cindy. I can't remember Larry. What do we call Larry? I can't remember his name again.
Gritty.
Gritty. We're going Gritty, and then Cynthia's phone. All right, guys, go. I can hear him. I gotta stand up for a second, so I apologize. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'll just keep it simple, man. I just want to know, like, where can the brothers find you at, like, on social media, Facebook, Instagram, wherever, the social platform, if they want to get more information about the movement.
You can look on Facebook and Instagram, Kwame Shakur, spelled like Kwame Shakur, like Asada Shakur, Tupac Shakur, Shakur. You'll see on there that I have my logo, which is the United Panther Movement logo on there. And it says on there, I'm the Minister of Culture for the New African Black Panther Party. So that's on Instagram and also on Facebook. If you want to jump on my YouTube channel, that's also the same thing. Google Kwame Shakur, and you'll see all my personal videos that I post up there. You can look on the Peace Report, and that's and then peace, like the peace sign, and report. That's one of our official websites on YouTube, so you can watch our videos. I have I have an interview that I did with the chairman of the Brown Panther organization, Will, on there that I gave about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. That's probably one of the best interviews I ever gave, and it really highlights what this movement is really about. So if you want to really understand this movement, jump on the Peace Report, check that out. You can check us out, the New African Black Panther Party. African, instead of a C, is a K. You can find us on Facebook. Also, United Panther Movement. You can also find that our organization on Facebook, and just send us a message and say that you trying to get with the movement, and we'll bring you on board. And I just tell all the pigs that trying to get on here, y'all try to infiltrate us again. We a lot more conscious of y'all COINTELPRO now. So you come and try to infiltrate us, we're gonna expose you, and we're gonna start calling out names from now on. So if y'all trying to contact us, we don't have no problem. You can join too. We just gonna expose you when we find out who you is.
Brother, that leads me to my question, man. I mean, I've been doing a lot of research, and I'm a historian. I'm the owner of a 1947 set of encyclopedia, so I try to learn from the mistakes of the past. But my question is this: in your own words, why do you feel it was such a threat that the FBI had to infiltrate the original Panther movement versus, say, any movement like, say, the KKK was not infiltrated or not disbanded or not considered a threat to national security, whereas we had church bombings, city bombings, people lynched in the streets. And, as somebody said, slavery was legal. That doesn't make it right. So in your own words, why do you feel as if there was a tit for tat in that aspect?
The original Black Panther Party, which is a lot of my comrades now, like the New African Black. Just Sunday in Harlem, they did a pass and a torch on to the New African Black Panther Party, them and the Young Lords. You know what I mean? So we recognized by the originals. But to answer your question directly, the original Black Panther Party was really revolutionaries for real. You know what I mean? And who wants your system overthrown and replaced by the people, the slaves? The slaves coming in power, and we coming into the White House, and we running this system for the people. They don't want that. That's their riches. That's their privilege. This is their monopoly board. They don't want us to overthrow that monopoly board and replace it with a socialist board that's going to be about the people. You know what I'm saying? So they're going to do everything, and they should. That's what they're supposed to do. We have to do what we're supposed to do to make sure the revolution goes on, and make sure infiltrators don't keep on infiltrating our organization and able to rise up in different positions where they can sabotage our movement. That's what we're supposed to do. So for them to do what they're doing what they're supposed to do. And we understand that. We respect that, because that's the enemy. The enemy is going to act like the enemy regardless. You know what I'm saying? So we as revolutionaries, we just have to be cognizant of COINTELPRO is still alive and well today. You know what I'm saying? And do what we supposed to do and weed out these individuals while we still build up this mass movement, not just here in America, but around the world. We're a worldwide movement. We're trying to build up United Panther chapters all the way around the world, because this is a global system. You know what I mean?
All right. Thank you.
Who's next?
I don't have any questions right now, but I just want to thank you, man, for the work that you're doing. You're all over the country, man. Bro, even this year before everything kind of broke out in our city, you was out doing the whole COVID food giveaway, you know what I'm saying? So you have a real impact, you know what I'm saying, and you have for years. So I appreciate the work that you're doing. I think because of you and the work that you do, just being able to follow you and be inspired by some of the things that you put out there, Like I feel more connected to other communities that are dealing with, you know what I'm saying, similar social conditions, you know, because of your work. So I appreciate you, man. You know, please keep going. You know what I'm saying? I'll support the best way that I can, man. But, you know, thank you. Because, I mean, you know, you not only say boots to the ground, you really live in it. And I appreciate and respect that.
I appreciate that. Salute.
Already.
Who's next? Fancy, did you ask a question already? Or no, do you have anything? You're not. You're muted. You're muted.
No, I'm not.
There you go.
I didn't ask a question. You might have liked my muted question better. I tend to default under the think locally, act globally terms, and my question would be for people who look or think like me, even if they don't look or think like me. What's the number one thing that you would say to us to do? Not by white, not by female, not by, like, you could look or be anyone.
The number one thing I would say is to educate yourself about, you know, history, period. We are historical materialists. Like, to understand what we are, you got to understand what historical materialism is. That means that you have to understand the wide breadth of history. One brother on here said that capitalism would never end. That's partly, and with all due respect, that's partly because people don't know history. Like, people used to think that slavery would never end or feudalism would never end. It was a long history of feudalism. Capitalism is very new. It's only a couple of 100 years old. You know what I'm saying? Feudalism was around a lot longer than capitalism. You know what I mean? So when you understand and educate yourself, I would say for my comrade right here, Daryl Bush, read The Origin of Private Property, the State, and the Family by Frederick Engels. And I'm pretty sure after you read that book, you'll see that a different perspective of history and how history evolved through a class struggle. Once we understand class struggle, then you understand nothing is permanent. Empires come and they go. Systems come and they go. But we have to educate ourselves. What is the nature of the state? A lot of people don't realize the state ain't always been here. So what was here before the state was here? It wasn't racism. It wasn't sexism. You know what I'm saying? Actually, all societies were matriarchal societies. And it's kind of bad testament on patriarchal society. When men came to power and we overthrew the matriarchal society, we was actually freer. People of different ethnicities was actually getting along. They was working together. They saw each other as brothers and sisters. You know what I'm saying? So we have to have a long view of history. I'm not talking about 100 years. I'm not talking about 200 years. I'm talking about 10,000 years. If you don't have an understanding of 10,000 years of history, you don't understand how society evolves and changes, and you're not going to understand right now. You know what I'm saying? Me being a historical materialist and did 18 years in prison, that's all I did was history. I'm talking about, again, 10,000 years. And I even go further back than that. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, as far as human civilization, if we don't have an understanding of the last 10,000 years, we won't understand today, and we won't know how to change today. But as far as right now, what a person could do, study the original Black Panther Party. Watch the first Rainbow Coalition that came on PBS. If you want to understand our movement, watch the first Rainbow Coalition on PBS. Actually, the founder of it, Jose Chacha Jimenez, which was the founder of the Young Lords, he was the one that told me to watch it. He was like, man, we got a program about our movement back in the 60s is coming on. I was like, okay, when? January 7th, 27th? I'm on that. You know, you can jump on PBS and watch that now. Watch the Revolution, Black Panther Revolutionary Vanguards or something like that is on YouTube. It's like a 3-hour program about the original Black Panther Party. That's the good, bad, and the ugly. The original Black Panther Party made a lot of mistakes. We don't glorify them. We see them as human beings that did some very great things, but they had some very big weaknesses as well. That's why we can't make the same mistakes as the original Black Panthers. That's why there are teachers and mentors today that teach us what not to do, what they did wrong. You know what I mean? So I say study the original Black Panther Party and study the first Rainbow Coalition. That's to be the starting point. And then from there, study the history of Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong was our greatest leader. They would tell this dude was a dictator. The first dictator I ever came across that was trying to build up a mass movement of the people and said that the issue of today is we talk about the struggle is against the capitalists and imperialists, but we don't even realize where the capitalist imperialism is right now. They're right here in the Chinese Communist Party. China reversed a long time ago. They haven't been no socialist state since 1976. So why in the fuck are we still calling them communists and socialists? We don't call them that because they ain't been that. You dig what I'm saying? So we say you got to educate yourself and don't let the media and this miseducation that these countries around the world miseducate their population to keep them ignorant and keep them in a slave-minded state. So that would be my answer to you. Just study, educate yourself.
Hey man,
really.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
You may say this, but Long Green asked what the name of the book that you referenced.
Hey, hold on. Fancy. We got a host of the show. You just relax. You stay in your lane.
I'll mute myself. Your hair looks nice.
No, you're all right. Go ahead. There's a real question. That's the same question I was going to ask, though. Kwame, the book you referenced. What was the name of it again?
Well, I was telling Daryl Bush as far as understanding the state and how the state came about, how private property came about, and how the family came about. Is the origin of the I want to say state, private property, and the family. I might have those words mixed around, but if you look up Frederick Engels, that book will pop up. That's a good book to understand how class struggle came about and changed society and how it actually evolves. So you'll understand that actual systems does change. Like slavery wasn't going to be here forever. Feudalism ain't going to be here forever. Just like capitalism ain't going to be here forever. But you have to understand how class struggle and production relations change in time due to different phenomena, without getting into the details. But he explains a wide breadth of history of that. But as far as the PBS thing to watch on PBS is called the First Rainbow Coalition. If you want to understand what the new African Black Panther Party is about, watch that, and that's what we're doing today. But we're doing it from an internal standpoint within our own organization with our United Panther movement and the New African Black Panther Party. We have the White Panther organization, and we have the Black Brown Panther organization. They all sit on our central committee. We're all a part of the same vanguard movement, but it's Black led by the New African Black Panther Party.
Hey, so I got a question. I got a question. Like, whenever it's kind of raining and sunny, like I like seeing the rainbow. Why have we lost the rainbow to the LGBTQ community, and now it sounds like we lost it again to the Rainbow Coalition? I just want to enjoy the rainbow.
We the original.
Right,
we the original rainbow. But our rainbow was this. It was black, brown, yellow, and white, and red. That was our rainbow colors. But they stand for black people, brown people, yellow people, red people, and white people coming together. And when I form this fist, that's the power of the people. You know what I'm saying? Standing in solidarity with each other. You know what I'm saying?
I like it, man. I like that. Hey, I tell you what, Kwame. Anybody else have a question for Kwame?
Only question I had, he threw out a bunch of social media stuff. I don't have any social media, so if you could just shoot me your email in the comments or in the chat, so I can get your email and and send out some information, I'd be appreciative. If everybody could do that, it would be fantastic.
Hey, Kwame, and if it's a struggle, send it to me and I will forward it to Monsky. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, this one right here, it's an email I don't mind giving out to everybody.
Yeah, because you don't want to have all that. It's a mess. Hey, all right, guys. Hey, it's Everett's Radio Show, man. You listening? We have been on for a solid 2 hours. We have become that show. We have become that show that people listen to for the whole week until the next Tuesday comes. And I had people comment today like, I finished this show. I can't wait till the next one. And that excites me. That excites me, man. So today's name of the show is Trump 2020. Is that right? No. Blacks for Trump 2020 ? Because what's old girl's name, man? Candace Owens. Candace Owens, man. We probably need to discuss her a little bit. And also get into some other stuff that we're gonna do. Hey, Kwame, if you want to hang, you're more than welcome to hang. If you need to go, man, we appreciate you for being there.
Hey, Moose, let me say one thing.
Yo. Say your name. Say your name.
This is Gritty, man.
Arlo Gritty.
I've been in and out, catching a little bit of the show. It's a busy day, but I see who's on the show. Let me take off my hat and salute Mr. Kwame. It's been years since I seen you before you went in and did that stretch, sir. So I don't know him by Mr. Kwame. I know him by his government name.
Yeah.
Beforehand.
We're not using that, yeah.
I like to see the growth in you, my guy. I mean, it's been a long time since, man, Pike, Lincoln, you was over kicking with us in Mayfield, me and my guy Miller. So, hey, keep on that good movement, man. Keep it going.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, man. I actually talked to that Miller the other day. I ain't seen him since back then. Yeah. So
what?
Yeah. I talked to him the other day. Saw him. We was shutting down the streets over there on 29th, 25th and Keystone. And he pulled up.
Hey, Gritty, Kwame, do you guys want each other's contact information?
Yeah, you can give me my phone number.
I will do that.
Give me my phone number.
I will do that. All right. That way you
guys have me back on the show though for this Trump stuff.
Hey,
I definitely want to talk about that.
Hey, next week's the Father's Day edition. Next week, the Father's Day edition. So you guys come back for the Father's Day edition, and we're gonna talk about being fathers, and hopefully, you know what, I can easily get a hold of black fathers. I need some pilgrim fathers too to join us, by the way. But I need some fathers of men, some fathers of women, some fathers with a what?
Oh, never mind. Go ahead, continue.
Jeez,
that's so weird, man. Anyway, Kwame, thank you for being here, man. We appreciate it. And if you want, if you want to hang, you can hang. Hey, man, boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground. I like that.
Absolutely. All right now.
Thank you. Hey, folks, man, you guys listen to Heavy Hits Radio Show. This is Moose at Big House, man. We zooming and we are podcasting all at the same time, man. It's a simulcast. And man, it's really cool. So we got the one and only LGZ and Baku in there. He's the star of our show, man. We got DJ Long Green. He's in here. We got the woman of the show, man. She got all her pets on her. She's run EMC, and then we got, you know what? We have some contributors. Who one of our main contributors is Health Connection. He's up in here as well. Yes, he's up. Matter of fact, when I get done doing my little thing, I want you to give us some Health Connection stuff for COVID, for the end of COVID type deal. We got Monsky Love, who was one of the cast men that was in here in the early days. Jeezy, what was the name of that?
The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, man. He was one of them. And then I have one of my oldest and fantastic friends, man, who I love dearly, Daryl Bush, man. Dr. Daryl Bush, Esquire. Yeah, because I just like saying that because I want to respect him, man. Central State University, man. My man. Yeah, my man. We got Fancy Nancy in here. And then, guess what? We got my last born son who I love dearly too, man. The Elder C's up in here making this thing. And then his mama, Cindy Webb, is in here as well. Am I missing anybody? There's somebody I can't tell who that is because it's like who is that? Oh, and then Arlo Gritty's up in here, folks. Arlo Gritty. All right, guys. All right, so man, Heaviest Radio Show. We up in here. We're making it happen. All right.
I have my scorching hot question I wanted to ask y'all, man.
Go.
So, as Ron, I guess, put in the group text today that Trump was talking about police reform. Is that correct, Ron?
His press conference was supposed to address that, yes.
Yes. I don't know if he did or he didn't because I didn't watch. Did he address it? Probably. Say what?
I said, of course you didn't. He said about two things about police reform.
So my question would be this. And we know it's a political season, if that man manages to reform the police department and put certain things in place, will he earn the black vote? Or should he earn the black vote?
It's not. In my humble opinion, it's not whether or not he should earn the black vote based solely along law enforcement reform. Law enforcement reform is just like anything else, in my humble opinion. It is accountability for one's own actions, accountability for the actions of someone you work for. Anytime we've taken those tests for a job and it says if you saw someone stealing, what would you do? Would you A, try to counsel them, B, tell somebody, C, do nothing? Those tests are there in place, not just because, but they're there to give you a gauge on someone's actual ethics. And that's something that has to start in the home. I say it time and time again, we have to start with the generation of tomorrow. We have to start with the youth today in regards to getting rid of the entitlement generation, but giving them the work ethic generation, creating men and women, young men and women who can think for themselves, who can interact in good, bad, or indifferent situations. I mean, I myself have been pulled over. 1 year I was pulled over 13 times prior to being involved in law enforcement. It could have always been a negative interaction with law enforcement. However, how I conduct myself generally determines the outcome of my interaction. So, and that's not in everyone's case. I have to. Damn, mosquito in here. Sorry. Oh man, it was a big one. But I have a son who's 22 years old today, and I had to educate him in the respect of, hey, when you are out here alone, there are things that it's not that you can't do, but it's things that you shouldn't do, and that's just solely because we want to see you make it home at the end of the day. So just keep in mind, we just have to be able to hold each other accountable, and that's from not even just the president, but that's from your local and state legislature. Get your butt out there and make a difference. My daughter said she was so happy she registered to vote. I said, well, that's good, but you missed the important vote, which was last week. So, and educate oneself and always continuing to ask those questions, those difficult questions.
I have a question in response to Jeezy's question that will help me answer. How much can any president do for police reform when police are local entities?
That is the point.
No, and that's the same thing Obama said when he was president. Like you can't federalize the police. What I'm saying is, you can pass legislation, which I think is which is in the House right now. They're talking about reforming as far as like, I'm not talking about the defunding, but like basically taking away the Immunities Act that was signed in by President Obama back then. It made it even harder to prosecute police officers. That the president can sign that, and that's kind of what I was talking about.
There's an attorney in the forum.
There's a what?
There's an attorney in the forum.
Yes, sir.
Maybe tell us. Maybe.
I can. Number one, qualified immunity is something that's not statutory. It's not in the Constitution. It is an interpretation of the Constitution by the United States Supreme Court.
in which they have said, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, that an officer in the course of and scope of his employ and doing his job should not be held essentially to the standard of an ordinary person. In other words, they are allowed or permitted to make some mistakes in the course of executing their job for the greater good. And because of that, in order for them to be held responsible for negligence or wrongdoing, their level of negligence has to be a much higher standard. It is not just ordinary negligence. They have to be really, really wrong, to put it simply. And so what they can do is the legislators, the Congress, the U.S. Congress and the Senate, they can enact laws or enact legislation that will change that. And what that will do then is, from a federal standpoint, that will affect the dollars that are trickled down to all of these local and state police departments. If they don't get on board and follow the mandate from the federal level, then they risk ostracizing themselves or rendering themselves ineligible to receive those funds. And that money that goes to the police department is what is going to dictate the change. For example, I believe it's New York City. New York City gets about $6 billion, I believe they said, from the federal government. New York City's budget is $6 billion. I'm not exactly sure how much of that comes from the federal government, but a significant portion of it does. But to get those funds, they have to comply with certain aspects of the federal legislation. And if they don't, then they don't get it. So, yes, the president can make an executive order. Yes, Congress can enact and pass laws or enact legislation that becomes law, that then is the federal law. It doesn't govern the state, but it does govern the money that trickles down to the state. And that then will affect the state's decision. Do they want to get the money or not? If they do, then they'll comply. If they don't, then they won't get that money.
So is that where the term defund the police department comes from?
That's a little bit different. That's a little bit different. And to be quite honest, I don't agree with defunding the police department. I think it's a misnomer. I think it's inappropriately named, defunding, that term, defunding the police department. What they are really suggesting is that the funds for the police department are reallocated in such a way that funds are given to other organizations that can more adequately address some of the concerns in the society, like mental health issues. Police should not necessarily be responding to issues and cases involving mental health or mental illness. They are the least equipped. They don't have the training to deal with that, yet and still, they are the ones that are called. They're the easiest ones to be called because they're on duty 365 days a year, 7 days a week. So they don't take the holidays off. The police are always on duty. So when there's a problem, if somebody is wigging out, so to speak, because they're just bad behavior, or if it's because of some mental illness, the police are ultimately the ones that are called. The defunding comes from trying to reallocate those funds to other organizations so that when you call 911, that call doesn't get an officer dispatched to address that issue. That call is dispatched to another agency that then dispatches someone to more adequately handle that situation. So when they say defund the police department, they don't necessarily mean stop sending money to the police department. What they're really saying is reallocate those funds to other organizations to take some of the pressure off the police department and allow them to focus on what they ought to be doing, and allow these other organizations and agencies that are better equipped to handle certain things, allow them to be able to handle those instances.
All right, hey, so real quick, guys. You guys listen to Heavy Hitters Radio Show, man. We appreciate you, man. We're on all the stuff that you listen to, all the podcast spots. We're on YouTube, and Spreaker. Hey, real quick, so Monsky and I both work with youth that are adjudicated, and so when I was telling someone today, when they talk about defund the police department, Senor Bush. I was telling them that here's what they're saying. They're saying yes, we need to dispatch the police, but we also need to dispatch a person that has skills in de-escalation techniques, so that possibly they can calm the situation without gunfire. And so
a social worker, a psychologist,
and so I was talking to my sister, the big sis, and she's like, "Yeah, that's what they need." And I go, "Okay, so in the situation of Breonna Taylor here in Indianapolis, you know what? So she's there, and the police are there, but they also dispatch me as a person that is skilled in de-escalation techniques. Guess you know what? I'm not afraid in the world to say that I am skilled in de-escalation techniques. I am, folks. You might not know that, but Moose has some skills in that area. So when I walk up to that door, the gun blast that comes to that door then takes me out. Doesn't take Breonna Taylor out. So now I become a hashtag as a person that is matter of fact. By the way, she's not a hashtag because nobody said anything about her after we buried her.
Real quick, Moose, to your point, you still wouldn't be the first one in the house, though. Like you wouldn't be the first one in.
He be the one knocking on the door.
Oh, never mind. I forgot that he gets the call, not the police. My bad.
No. The police.
You got to differentiate. I'm sorry.
The police go, and I'm on the team. So there is there's 3 police officers and me.
Right. So I mean, they will not introduce you as the social worker.
I'm not even saying that, Jeezy. I'm saying, and I'm speaking in. I don't want to speak for Moose, but I'm speaking in terms of because I was trained by the best. I was trained by Moose. I'm just saying, police don't. I mean, as soon as you see the police, that causes anxiety in itself.
Right.
Somebody like Moose or myself knock on the door. That's a different type of relationship. You know what I'm saying? It's different. Police officers get I don't know how many hours of training in de-escalation techniques, but Moose, I don't know how many you got in the game. I know how many years I got in the game. I got 15 plus years in the game, and I can assure you, I could probably respond to over half the situations a lot of police officers deal with, especially when it comes to mental health. And I think myself or Moose, I'm damn sure confident that we would come out of them situations without a major incident occurring to be able to de-escalate the situation.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Breonna Taylor was not a mental health situation. It was a no-knock search warrant.
No. It was
a domestic. That was a domestic female IMPD officer. She knocked on the door, answering the call of a domestic disturbance of a couple. No. The moment she knocked on the door, she was shot dead.
Yeah.
2 things.
We lost. Did we lose everybody?
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Oh no! I'm the only one. I'm the only one moving.
Which is really just reallocating those funds. Part of it, yes, is sending social workers or psychologists into the field along with officers to do de-escalation. But another big part of it is reallocating those monies to be proactive. So putting more money into housing, putting more money into rehabilitation centers, and putting more money into
homelessness.
The third one. But so then those take a lot of the situations that police officers are responding to, and we're able to help people proactively to calls as well.
All right. Hey, real quick, guys. Real quick. Monsignor Darrell Bush, I know you got to go. You hit me up. So if you have any kind of closing comments, we're gonna let you go, and then we're gonna finish up the show here in a minute. But
2 things specifically with regard, and thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed the conversation. I've agreed with a lot that's been said. I've disagreed with some, but I respect everybody's right to say it. But 2 things. There are 2 things that need to happen.
I love you.
We have to get on our local officials and local legislators and get them to support the abolishment of this qualified immunity. Qualified immunity is the single most important thing that holds a law enforcement officer liable, personally liable, not criminally liable, but personally liable. And he can be civilly liable as well. Criminally liable as well. But because of this qualified immunity, and I know we have a law enforcement officer on here, culpability for their own negligence. In other words, they aren't held responsible for it because qualified immunity protects them. We've got to get on our local legislators and get them to support that on the local level as well as all the way up the chain onto a national level. That is important. It hamstrings our ability to hold these bad seeds because not all law enforcement officers are bad. Right. There are many every day that go in and do their job. They do it the right way. They do it with respect. But there are some bad ones out there. And those that are the bad ones, we got to get those. Those are the ones we got to get rid of. Qualified immunity prevents or hampers our ability to be able to do that. That's number one.
Hey, real quick, before are you gonna remember number two?
Yeah, number two is you were referencing Breonna Taylor and these no-knock warrants. No-knock warrants need to be banned. That is the situation that occurred with Breonna Taylor in Kentucky. She was sitting in the home asleep. Mm-hmm. Police came in her house at night. Her boyfriend, not knowing who these people were because they did not and they didn't announce themselves, thought there was an intruder coming and started firing. They, of course, returned fire and she took on some 18, 20 gunshots herself. You just can't do that. We have a right to protect our home. And on top of it, they were in the wrong house and the person that they were looking for was already in custody and was already in police custody. So that was just wrong on a whole lot of levels. But that no-knock warrant is what set that whole tragic chain of events in motion. If there was an abolishment of that no-knock warrant, they would be required to knock and announce themselves before entering. Now, that's not to say that that's going to entirely eliminate a situation like that one. Somebody inside might still respond. But at least if they're knocking and announcing themselves before they come in, then the person on the inside is well aware, listen, we are law enforcement, we have a lawfully issued warrant to come into this premises, and we're coming in. At that point, now if you fire, then the police would be justified in protecting themselves. But that's not what happened. So I think you got to get rid of that because it conflicts with our right to protect ourselves and in the sanctity of our home, which is the most private and the most protected place in society is our home. That's what we have. So if you're active in your local communities, keep those two things in mind. Those two things. Make sure that you're asking any of your officials that are running for office how they feel about qualified immunity. How do they feel about no-knock warrants? And make sure that you let them know that you're opposed to the no-knock warrant, that you're opposed to qualified immunity, and that if they don't support your position, then you can't vote to elect them and put them in office to represent you because they don't represent your interests. These are small things. It's not a solution to everything, but it's something that it's a start that we can start to try to use to hold law enforcement accountable and responsible for the things that they're doing. And hopefully that then will allow a decrease in the loss of life that we're seeing.
Now, the question I have real quick before you get out of here is, when did the no-knock warrant start? Like, I don't remember that growing up. Was that something that was implemented over the last 20 years, maybe?
A lot of that came, and I don't, the short answer is I don't know. Okay. But I will say that a lot of it came to be, the prevalence of no-knock warrants came in the Bush administration, Herbert Walker Bush, when actually slightly before that was Reagan, but more prominently in the Bush administration when they had the quote-unquote war on drugs. And the no-knock warrants were supposedly to try to apprehend and curtail the pervasiveness of drug trafficking in the United States. And because they felt like law enforcement was being placed in jeopardy by knocking and announcing their presence before entering, because drug dealers were so often heavily armed, it put these law enforcement officers at risk. They allowed them to be able to get a warrant that allowed them to come in without knocking and announcing in order to try to assume control immediately before being, threatened with deadly force from those occupants. The short answer is I don't know. But somewhere between the Reagan administration and the Herbert Walker Bush organization is when the prevalence of no-knock warrants became a much bigger deal, and to the point to where now they're almost a staple. I mean, it was supposed to be an exception to the rule. It was supposed to be used only in exceptional instances, and judges that issued these warrants were supposed to give considerable thought to all of the circumstances before giving the okay to allow law enforcement to actually enter the residence of somebody without having to knock and announce themselves. But now it's become the norm, and those warrants routinely get issued, and you see the result.
Hey, all right, real quick. All right, so we saw in Atlanta where, what's his name? Is it Raymond Rashad Brooks, right? So Rashad Brooks resisted arrest, and in these situations where there's no knock warrants, I mean, like these cats are coming into the house because of the threat of violence. I mean, we have a police officer that's part of our show that we love. We have a lawyer. We have a lawyer that's could be a court appointed and all that. That's part of our show. We have a young man in Monsky that's working with some of the society's children that are in trouble, and we want all of them to come home. We want all of them to be safe. I want the health connection to be safe. If he's on the street, he's not on the street right now. But if he was on the street, I want him to come home safely. And I want my friend, one of the guys I love in the whole wide world. I could say I love him. I want him to be safe when he's out doing his lawyer thing. And Monsky, I love him too, and I want him to be safe when he's when he is working with these individuals that I know are tearing up society. And you know what? I'm not even adding myself in there because guess what? I do it too. I work with some people that are pretty dang gone dangerous, right? When is it okay for these cats to act the way they act? If you looked at the Brooks incident, he beat up two dudes essentially, and took their weapon from them. And then he was running from him, but then he turned and aimed the weapon at him.
He did fire the weapon.
He did. Exactly. He turned and fired the weapon at him. And so when do we say pineapples everybody? Holy shit. These guys are dangerous, some of them. Not all of them. But some of these cats are dangerous. Is it okay for the police to go home safe? Is it okay for the caseworker to go home safe? Is it okay for the therapist to go home safe? Like, those people need to go home safe too.
Moose, also is like you've kind of shared the same sentiment that me and I think Kay Sincere and a couple of my friends kind of when I watched the video, I think what was it, Sincere, Saturday night?
Right.
Yes. The video. The first thing I said was like, yeah, like this one I don't know.
Right.
The first argument that people draw the conclusion, which we do this parallel one case versus one case, is the case where the white guy grabs the cop's billy club and beat the actual cops up, and he wasn't shot. And that's the first thing that we kind of draw to is that situation. And we say, well, white people beat up cops all the time and they don't get shot and killed. And what I always say is when you in any experiment, for it to be valid, you have to have the same things in place and have different outcomes with the same people, the same situation in place. And with these being two different departments, two different situations, two different everything, it's hard to draw that line. Even though everything has been going on with black people in police, there's certain things you can't draw the line on. In this case, I'm not saying the dude should be shot and killed, but I understand what happened. Because I would hope if I was a police officer and Sincere was my partner, and somebody grabbed my taser and tased me, I will hope that you would put them down for me.
All right, so wait.
The same way that the cop in Indianapolis, it's a shame that her partner didn't do the due diligence of putting that person down and kill his partner in front of him.
Be careful. So, all right, so Jeezy,
that's true.
Jeezy, I hear what you're saying. But I'm gonna move on here. All right, so D-Lo, did you ever thought
somebody was responsible by Geico or something I don't know about?
No, I just want you to be careful.
I'm saying, Wendy's our sponsor. We gotta censor ourselves now.
I just want you to be careful.
Not censoring, but just saying, be empathetic to all parties involved. Just because
D-Lo,
somebody was with me.
D-Lo, what you saying, man?
Things would be different. My bad. Go ahead, D-Lo. I'm sorry. I'm too I'm out. I'm a loose cannon. I'm Trump right now. I'm a loose cannon.
All parties benefit from truth.
D-Lo, what you got to say about it? Hey man, I don't understand how your vocals go from perfect in the beginning to trash at the end, man.
I don't know. I need to be skipped.
There you go. It's like your microphone got to warm up.
But the Rayshard Brooks incident, I mean, there is a lot more of a gray area, as far as the incident itself. From my perspective, though, it just didn't have to end the way that it ended. You know what I'm saying? They didn't get a guy chased or anything. Like, they pulled out the taser with the intent to use it on it. He did somehow get it away from him. They had already patted him down, so they knew he didn't have a weapon on him. You know what I'm saying? So
he turned and fired the taser at the officer as he was giving chase. So the whole thing is, if you have enough mindset to take an officer's weapon and take off and run, turn that said weapon at the officer. At that point, he doesn't know if you intend to use that weapon against him to come back, pick up his firearm, and continue to do due diligence. It's called Monday morning quarterbacking. We can all say woulda, coulda, shoulda. However, it's just, again, unfortunate that someone had to lose their lives and it be televised. Now, let's talk about why are we burning down Wendy's after this? Wendy's ain't do that new.
Hold on a second. All right, we got it. We're not worried about Wendy's. All right, D-Lo, are you done? I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, so again, from my perspective, it just didn't need to go that far, and I respect, K. Sincere's position on this, but I think sometimes police working for some officers gets lazy. I mean, they could have chased the guy. He only had a taser. You both have firearms. You have one taser between the two of you. He's drunk, basic. It just didn't have to end 2 shots in the back, bang, bang. You know what I mean? It seems silly. So that's all I got on that.
Okay.
And I really believe that that's the issue.
Hey,
Mr.
Bush.
This is a gray area. It's a gray area.
Years about.
Wait, Bush. I want you to finish it for us. So, Run. I'm gonna go to you, Run. I'm gonna go to Run, and I'm gonna go to Monsky, and then I want you to finish. And if I saw Gritty for a second, but Run, I want you to go. Monsky, and then Bush, I want you to finish it for us, please, and then you can go. I appreciate you hanging, by the way. I'm about to send you some sticks. I'm not sending you no sticks, dude.
What the hell going on?
That's what. Hey, it's my man. It's my man. I mean, I love you, but it's my man. Anyway, Run, go.
I'm just my bad. Go up. I forgot my place. I'm reliable to heavy hitters, man. My bad.
Run, go.
TC, we'll come polish your chair twice next week.
Run, go.
Okay, so I do think that this instance is very messy. I will agree with all of that. But I do think that this is an unfortunately great example of potentially what defunding the police could do for our citizens. If we had proactive rehab, if we had mental health services, if we had officers trained differently or additional people to come to help de-escalate, it could have ended differently, right? So we talk a lot about what could have happened. But I also I'm confused, I guess. I watched the video, but I'm confused as to how two officers had someone very calm, and then in an instant it changed.
He was drunk.
Especially if you work
Run. He was drunk.
Or people with intellectual disabilities, you know that things can change in an instant. However, keeping control of that situation and maintaining control the entire time is what's important. For example, Moose and I had a conversation at one point because a very small child kicked an adult in the head. And Moose said, how did they let that happen? And I just feel like that's a good question to ask here, too. How did we let this happen?
We saw it. No, hey, hold on. Look, we saw it. We saw that as soon as they went to put the handcuffs on him, he started to fight. And he's 27. And, so it took two cats. If they had no weapons on him, he would have beat both of them up and then walked away in any fight.
But Moose, let me ask you this. I asked the Health Connections. I'm going to ask you, how much did the George Floyd situation play into the way the cops handled that situation? Not using certain moves and certain tactics.
The officer gave him 4 opportunities. I'm going to tase you. I'm going to tase you. I'm going to tase you. I would have been done at 1.
Saying is, like, you don't want to be seen putting a knee on nobody right now. Right. Like, you don't want that image. Even though that's probably how they was trained to do it. So because they was trying to wrestle him down a different way, he was able to get out of that, grab the gun and everything. And
yeah.
So optics now look different. Like, it's the whole, if you're thinking about something, in football, you get hurt. As an officer, if you're thinking about something a certain way, you get hurt. Like, this is real messy to me. This whole situation was just messy.
I'm about proactive approaches as opposed to reactive approaches. The officer's reaction is reactive. I heard my man talk about how they gave him 4 opportunities. I'm gonna tase you, I'm gonna tase you, I'm gonna tase you. And he said he would give him 1. I think in a lot of these situations, it's all arbitrary to the officer, especially how they try on how I perceive my life is in danger or not. Jeezy and Moose just sent y'all 2 videos that I watched today, where if you look at them videos, the dynamics in those videos are extremely different compared to this situation.
Correct.
The officers did not use lethal force. And believe you me, I think that they probably should and could have, but they didn't do it. So from a point in being trained in verbal de-escalation, being trained in community-based crisis management, I think that from a proactive standpoint, officers need to be trained differently when how they go about in responding to certain crises. They talked to this man for 30 minutes.
Right. They had a relationship, a rapport built with him.
Right. Prior to making a decision to arrest him. I don't necessarily think, in regards to some of the things the guy was saying, he identified, my sister stays around the corner. I ain't got to drive. I can walk. He talked about how his daughter's birthday was, in a few days, blah, blah, blah. I don't think the man, although he broke a law, I don't even know if the man necessarily even need to be arrested. Now, again, he wrestled with him. He fought with him. He took the taser. He ran. He turned and fired the taser. Again, in that situation, it's different how people will respond. You can train many times as you want. I'm just speaking from my personal standpoint. Moose, we worked in the field for a long time. I've been in a lot of situations, and Moose, I'm sure you can been in some as well. I've been in a lot of situations where arbitrarily my life was in danger dealing with some of these kids out in the community. I ain't got the option to use lethal force, and I've never been able to do it. All I've ever had at my disposal is a physical restraint. And in some of the most dangerous situations, I've been able to walk out of those situations without ever even having to use a restraint, and the kid be okay, and everybody go home safe. Because that's all I got at my disposal.
Ramon, you bring up the point that you didn't ask me why I'm mad, but I'm going to tell you why I'm mad. You bring up the point where subjective translates into objective. And so long as objective, as translated by American law, shows me that more minorities are subject to criminalization and death than white men are subject to criminalization and death, then there's a disparity. And what I'll say by that, by minority or layman's terms, is that it's not equal. Right. And when it's not equal, I have questions from statutes that were passed up from 1868 and amendments of 14 and 13 and constitutional rights. And y'all don't want to break up in the law with me, maybe aside from D. Bush, but here's my point. Subjective into objective should be unbiased in translation of the law. And that's all I'm asking. If I can see unbiased translation of an officer's subjective use of force into objective translation of the law, and it is indifferent despite the color of a person's skin, socioeconomic status, religious stature, or sexual orientation, then I will stand by your right to subjectively and objectively transverse into the law. But if it is unequivalent and our social standards are showing us time and time and time again it isn't, which violates constitutes and laws written into our government today, then I will not rest.
All right.
But I will mute.
All right, Fancy. I do not mind. I do not mind tackling a little bit of that, and then I'm gonna give it to D. Bush so we can get the heck out of here. He's been trying to get out of here. Plus our whole time is gonna be up in about 15 minutes anyway. All right, so I totally get what you are saying. However, here's what happens. Depending on your size, age, athletic ability, experience is how you're going to respond to any situation. So yeah, you know what? You are a fan, maybe, and I mean this in the most regard. You are a fan of the large black man, possibly, right? But if the large black man is aggressive or looking different or looking funny, you are going to respond to him differently. Now, maybe you are woke enough to respond to the large man, whether it be black or white, the same. But that is not the norm, and let's not ever mess that up. That if you know what, if you and I are arguing and I am loud or aggressive or mad, I become the angry black man. Whereas if I was a pilgrim, I would just be the man that was getting my point across. And listen to how I say that. If I'm a pilgrim, a white man, I'm the man that's getting my point across. But if I'm Moose, who we know is pretty laid back, remain peaceful, the whole thing, I become the angry black man. And guess what? It's messed up because I become the angry black man, whether I'm talking to black people, pilgrim people, it doesn't matter. I become the big angry black man that's scary because that's the narrative that's being created. So until we change the narrative, which I have given, I don't know, Monsky can attest to this. I've given 20 years. I've given 20 years to change the narrative of the angry black man to the big black man that is relatively peaceful and is trying to make it happen and trying to make it safe for everyone involved. Right? So I agree with you, you know, but the issue is that the way that the system is created makes Jeezy and Moose and the Health Connection, who's a police officer, and DJ Long Green and and even one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, Daryl Bush Esquire, dangerous because look at him. Even though he's a beautiful man, he's handsome. He's scary. Like how he's looking right now, he's scary with that because he doesn't know how to put his he doesn't know how to put his camera so that he looks handsome. He looks menacing because that camera's in the wrong
He's
place.
not scary. He's empowered.
No, he's menacing. He's menacing, and so
He's
it's one of those things. No, I know how this works, man. You can't. I've known this man since the '80s, and he's menacing, and so it's one of those. It's one of those things where society has not changed. You know what? If you want to ask me, if you really, I'm gonna make Jeezy real happy here. Jeezy has figured out how to survive in this system. Guess what? All of us on here have learned how to survive in our own specific way. We've learned how to make it in this society so that we can work and we can own businesses and do our own thing and have RC cars and griddles and and be DJs and own businesses. I mean, and become doctors. That's what we have learned. And guess what? We're survivors. The black men you have on here are survivors. Are we still oppressed? Pineapples, everybody. Musagiri say, fuck yes.
Fuck yeah.
We are oppressed still because we have to learn how to be extra nice. So guess what? If something's on my car and I want to complain about it, I can't be shitty about it because then I'm a scary black man. I gotta be like, hey guys, you just scratched my $50,000 car.
Let me ask you a question. And I know we don't get to D Bush. I know we keep keeping him on here to the end. Real quick, how much of it is your social economic status? Because I'm pretty sure if LeBron James, if somebody scratched his car, he went the pineapples fuck off, he wouldn't be the angry black man. All the people around will scuffle and do everything they can to make sure that his situation was all right.
You know what, Jeezy? LeBron James wouldn't go pineapples the fuck off because he's already a black man that's in his 30s, so he wouldn't even do it. He'd be like, hey, man, here's what happened. You see what I'm saying? So, you know what? We've already been trained not to go off because we're going to be in trouble. So even though LeBron James has, Michael Jordan has $1 billion, right? Michael Jordan has $1 billion and he's still not going to go off because they will, at some, they'll arrest him. Now, don't get me wrong. At some point in the higher level, in the hierarchy, he's going to get off. But they still going to arrest him. He still don't go off.
So this is probably next week's topic, but
1 minute.
Everyone who has nothing to lose seems to be sounding off now. Maybe because it's the cool, social, persuasive thing to do. Maybe it's a capitalism, macroeconomic statement to make, either pro or for your capitalism stance. But people seem to be saying things. The NFL made a statement. Michael Jordan made a statement. Right. I'm not going to dissect their statements, but they made a statement. And I'm not black, and I've supported this movement for a long time. But when people are spouting off now, it kind of feels cliche and trendy.
You know what? Hey, Fancy.
Maybe it's good.
Hey, Fancy. Jeezy and I are not mad at you because you're right. You know what? The minute you flip over a couple of tables, all of a sudden Goodell's like, you know what? Kaepernick wasn't that bad. 3 years ago, Kaepernick was horrible. You know what? But now we done flipped over 15 tables. All of a sudden, Kaepernick. You know what? Man, we should bring Kaepernick back. Man, we love him. No, y'all didn't love him when he was saying the exact same thing when it wasn't no tables flipped.
A statement's not empowerment. A statement's not change. A statement's not direction. So maybe I'm too critical, but I tend to default to, so now what? Okay, everybody's mad.
No, listen. Listen.
But now what?
Listen, you're already right. We already established that. You are correct. Now the table's been flipped. Now we got to move forward. All right, Bush, my man, with the lower hand. I don't know how you get lower hand on there. That's kind of weird. That's interesting.
Here are my last remarks with regard to Rashad Brooks. And I think we got to stay focused. You got to keep your eye on the ball in the midst of all the noise. And I hate to use that word because it sounds bad, but in the midst of everything that's going on, specifically with Rashad Brooks, the issue that is pivotal is whether or not the law enforcement officer, under the facts and circumstances then prevailing, whether that officer or those officers were permitted to use lethal force against Mr. Brooks. And this kind of lends itself to that whole qualified immunity argument. On one hand, there's an argument that the use of lethal force was not authorized. Number one, the police policy, as I understand it, and I might be wrong and I'll stand corrected, but as I understand it, the police policy was that you cannot, as an officer, use lethal force unless your life has been threatened. And you need to use that force to protect your life or the life of others around. Well, under the facts and circumstances in this instance, they had already checked him and determined that he had no weapon. He started to resist. He started to run away. If he's running away, he's not posing a threat to that officer. He did, however, before running away, steal the taser, and he turned and pointed the taser at the officer. Whether or not he could have hurt those
and
officers
discharged
with the
it
taser from that distance or not is questionable.
He discharged
even
it.
If he could have, a taser is not deemed lethal force. It's not a deadly weapon. And so under that example, they would not be authorized to use lethal force to protect themselves against a taser. So the question again is whether or not they were authorized to use lethal force in that instance. And I think there's an argument that they were not.
That's the gray area that we're dealing with, because now in hindsight, both men have been relieved of their position. So it opens this door where they fired because they were wrong, or were they fired just because of the temperature?
Let me get to the other side of the argument.
I got one thing. Can I add one thing? I just want to add one thing. No, Fancy, I want to add one thing. So listen. He fired the taser at the officer. If he incapacitates the officer and takes his weapon, to me that's the a possibility of deadly force. All right.
But it doesn't matter, because even though he took the weapon, he didn't take the officer's gun. He took the officer's taser. Mm-hmm. And the taser is specifically deemed to be a non-lethal weapon. Mm-hmm. And because it's a non-lethal weapon, and because they had already previously determined that he didn't have any lethal weapons on him, under the police policy, they would not be authorized to return the use of lethal force against them. Now, the other side of that argument is that of the police officer. And that is, and I'm keeping in mind, I want to go back to that, keeping in mind this man was running away. Even when he turned, he didn't turn all the way around, because when the officers did shoot him, they shot him twice in the back. Mm-hmm. So there is some argument that the use of lethal force wasn't authorized. On the other side of that, you put an officer in a volatile situation with a man that they have determined, based on probable cause, to be drunk. He failed the field sobriety test. Right. He was peaceful at first, but then it escalated. And he started tussling and fighting with both officers and took the taser. Mm-hmm. This man started running, and he turned and pointed that taser. You're asking an officer in a split second, in the heat of a moment, to determine that, hey, that's not a lethal weapon he's using at me. So according to the police policy, I'm not authorized to use lethal force. That's not even a realistic presumption just from a human aspect. Your natural mindset is to protect yourself.
Correct.
So I understand the technical aspect of it, but from a realistic aspect, this officer was trying to protect himself with the only thing he had, which was his gun. So I think there is some argument on behalf of the officer. This is where qualified immunity comes in. If that is deemed to be plausible, that in the split second he felt threatened and he felt like his life was threatened, then even if he technically wasn't authorized according to the policy to use lethal force against him, that qualified immunity now excuses whatever negligence may have caused him to pull that pistol and shoot him twice in the back. And now the officer is exonerated. So there are arguments on both sides. But this is just a bad case. It's this guy really set in motion some facts and some circumstances that led to the unfortunate and tragic outcome. It is unfortunate, but I don't think it was entirely the police officer's fault. I think it was more his fault, but I do think that under the circumstances, the officers probably weren't authorized to use lethal force in that situation. But you're in the heat of the moment, and I think I can excuse an officer under those circumstances for using force necessary to protect himself, even if it turns out that force was more than what was authorized under the circumstances. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but of course
that's
it does.
The point you got to keep your eye on, whether or not he was authorized under those circumstances to use force. And if he was, then there's no problem. If he wasn't, there is a potential violation. He could be held criminally liable. But if he was authorized, even if he wasn't, does he escape that liability because of because right now qualified immunity still applies. And so he still is that officer, and those officers are still entitled to the protection of that qualified immunity.
But they were fired, so that's now that they're fired.
If he did violate that policy, does he escape culpability because qualified immunity protects him under those circumstances?
All right, hold on.
That's a very real possibility.
All right, hold on a second. He started to use words like culpability and stuff, which when hey guys, real quick, you gotta understand. I absolutely love this guy. Like I knew him before I was 20 years old, and so when he talks like that, it kind of gives me like a friendly hard on. I don't know, but anyway. I mean, because I love him. He's my brother. He's my brother. And so, man, he's smart and he's just going and going and going. And so I appreciate you being there. Matter of fact, I invite you back next Tuesday to our Father's Day show. It'll be after Father's Day. But I'd like to invite you back to our next Tuesday Father's Day show.
I'm glad to do it. I got 2 daughters. You see that silhouette on my back wall in my garage? That's because I got daughters. I escort every man to my house in front of that Target and make them know that please believe me, don't hurt my babies.
That's right. That's right. And so, folks, hey man, this is Daryl Bush Esquire. He is with I tell you what, what's the name of your firm, man? Because you might as well
Bush Law Firm.
The Bush Law Firm in
Greenville, South Carolina.
You know what? I'm glad you said it. You finally said it like you're from here. Because when I'm talking to you, you say Greenville. You're not from there. You're from here in Indiana, and it's Greenville. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to coming back next week.
Hey man,
Godspeed to all of you. You guys take care.
The Father's Day episode, man. Hey man, peace, brother. We appreciate you. I love you, man.
Yes, sir. Love you too.
All right, so hey guys, guess what? This is Moose Gate Big House, and we got like 1 minute before like the whole thing shuts down. All right, so Jeezy, man, I appreciate your thoughts and everything you had to say. D-Lo, of course, always smart, always funny, always interpretive. Run, you know, you the You the lady of the show. You the lady of the show, and we definitely appreciate you. Health Connection, I apologize. We did not get any information in, but that's how I went today.
Somebody drink more water.
Outstanding. Monsky, man, we appreciate you. Gritty, you're not there, but I'm glad you're here. And Fancy Nancy, man, appreciate you. Hey, guys, Heavy Ears Radio Show. You know what? I'm glad you enjoyed us. And what's happening is people are enjoying us for the whole week. So doing these long shows like this, it's really cool. So it's a Heavy Ears Radio Show. What do I say?
We are where you are, man.
Oh yeah, sir. We are where you are.
You get comfortable.
What?
Hurry up.
In your mouth.
Come on in.
I don't think anyone can follow that.
You guys.